call this regular board meeting of the Anastasia Mosquito Control District to order on Wednesday, January 15th at 5 p.m. Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending our board meeting today. We appreciate your interest in the work that we do. Per the district's policy, the district recognizes that promoting and preserving
One company call in probably.
Can I just hang up on him? Huh?
I think you just answered.
There's a green button.
Yeah. Hello?
Hi, this is Mary Jacobs, AMCD.
Hi, you're breaking up a little.
Hello?
Hi, this is Mary Jacobs with MGT. I'm just going to dial in if there are any questions for your item number 2.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jacobs.
Thank you.
All right. Per the district's policy, the district recognizes that promoting and preserving decorum and civility during public meetings best enables the board to fairly and expeditiously conduct the business of the district. All participants, including members of the public, elected commissioners, and district staff, are expected to conduct themselves with respect, courtesy, and decorum during board meetings, refraining from personal attacks, disruptive behavior, and language that is offensive or inflammatory, while allowing for open and respectful exchange of diverse viewpoints. The chair has the responsibility of preserving order and decorum. As a reminder of the board's policy, no commissioner shall speak on any questions or discuss any matter, nor interrupt, nor make a motion without first being recognized by the chair. Additionally, in accordance with the board's policy, any person disrupting a board meeting by making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or by boisterous behavior while the board is in session, may be removed from the meeting. In short, I ask that you would treat others as you would like to be treated. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. All right. Could we do an invocation, please?
Could we stand for that?
Yes.
Lord, look lovingly on this group gathered here. During this meeting, as we discuss and deliberate on issues of importance to this district, help us to be guided by your Spirit. May we be wise in our discernment, balanced in our judgment, fair in our decision, and visionary in our planning. Though we may at times have differing views, may we listen to one another and be guided by our common goals. May we always be mindful in our words and actions of what is best for all people in our district. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. All right. Ms. Hodges.
Yes.
We're not going to do
I think
We are when it's time.
Oh.
I guess we do the ceremony first.
We usually do the first. Yeah.
Okay, well,
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
all right. Clear.
Okay, so can our commissioners come line down here? Pictures, any second thoughts? No? We're not going on board. Now, so we're holding your feet this way, that way. Okay, so we are here to do our oath of officers, swearing in of our new commissioners. So we have with us Commissioner Thomas John Mazzato. We have Commissioner Dale Gardner and Commissioner Gina LeBlanc. So I will ask you to repeat after me as you do your oath of office. I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida. am now about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations.
Drive the chief, you can move on.
Can I ask you to approve for all of you
Yeah,
for our next annual program report?
Yuba.
Oh, I like your shoes. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner LeBlanc, present.
TJ Mazzata, present.
Commissioner Gardner present.
Commissioner Gleason, present.
Commissioner Becker present?
All right. I'd like to welcome the public again to the meeting. Thank you for attending. A copy of the district's public comment policy is available upon request, but I'd like to highlight a few points. Members of the public must be recognized by the chair. No person shall approach or address the AMCD Board of Commissioners until the chair permits that person to approach and address the board. Prior to, excuse me, prior to addressing the board, the person desiring to speak should fill out a speaker's request slip provided by the AMCD staff and return the speaker's request slip to the designated AMCD staff member. Each speaker providing public comment shall limit comments to 3 minutes. A member of the public in speaking in any manner shall confine him or herself to the question or matter before the board, shall not use unbecoming, abusive, or unparliamentary language, and shall avoid commenting on personalities or characters of any board members, former board members, other officials, staff, or the public. Members of the public and designated representatives shall address their comments to the board as a whole and not to any commissioner individually or any group of commissioners. Imposing a demand for an immediate response from the board or any member thereof during public comments shall be considered out of order. Persons shall not address the board with personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or become boisterous. A commissioner shall not engage in dialogue with persons making public comments unless the question or comment is directed through the chair or made with the permission of the chair. Thank you for your cooperation. And the first speaker, Mr. Reynolds, would you like to speak first?
Okay.
Tom Reynolds, 112 Aricola. Is it supposed to start the clock? 32080. The first thing I'd like to tell you elected officials, or request, is the table there with the water on it. If we could have a few more items on there, like some food or something, some snacks. And the bug on the table, maybe we could hang that on some fishing line or something. Maybe a few of them around here. Second thing today is, I read about some controversy about bonuses, expense accounts, stuff like that. Well, I really truly believe as an elected official, you should receive a lot of compensation to the tune of $500 to $1,000 a week. Now, I know the state sets the boundaries, and you're not supposed to get anything. However, I think at least a car, brand new car, car allowance, van, something like that. And I truly mean that. Because, you know, if this is a really big position, you should be driving around the county. Should be driving around a lot. And also too, you know, I'm not a lawyer, never been a prosecutor, but it's kind of crazy, I can read. And so I did a lot of search. I don't see any rules being broken here. And as far as the state attorney, R.J. Larissa, the guy's useless. Don't even worry about that guy. He's too busy looking in the mirror all the time, and he's got to cover up all the crimes committed by David Shore and Joe Bowles, the former mayor of St. Augustine, the one that was robbing dead people and their families. And just in case you didn't know this, the Florida bar is getting ready to drop the hammer on him. He turned in his license, stopped that investigation. So now there's a cover-up by the state attorney and the chief of police downtown. It's a disgrace. Robbing dead people and their families. And as all you five know, all those mailers that came in the mail, the one from State Senator Tom Leake, that was the most impressive one I got. Absolutely pointing the finger right at David Bernard Shore, our former sheriff, in the cover-up of the Michelle O'Connor murder. I know that's really not have anything to do with mosquitoes, but don't ever worry about that guy. He's useless. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Slavin.
Good afternoon. Ed Slavin, box 3084, edslavin.com. I want to congratulate TJ Mazzato, my friend, on taking office today. And I want to disagree with the statement that the chair read. I think it's ambiguous and void for vagueness and doesn't comply with the law of the 11th Circuit. Calling your all's attention to Moms for Liberty versus Brevard Public Schools. October 8th, 2024, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, U.S. Court of Appeals in Atlanta, struck down a similar civility rule. It's not enforceable, and it is vague. And I would ask that the board ask learned counsel to give y'all a written opinion about that case and maybe get y'all a copy of it so you don't get in trouble. Because the last thing we want to do here is to chill First Amendment free speech rights. My father machine gunned Nazis in Normandy and Sicily and North Africa for my right to stand up at this podium. And I remember a few years ago we had an illegal purchase, and the board reversed it. But there's an illegal purchase of a no-bid helicopter for $1.8 million. And it was a contract violation of public policy. They actually, the chair at the time, who was the spouse of the former county attorney, didn't like what Captain Don Gervin, who was an Army captain in Vietnam, what he was saying about the need to cancel the helicopter contract. And she says in the middle of him talking, "I'm calling the cops." And she did. And for several meetings in a row, Commissioner Moeller and Commissioner Sunderman had a uniformed St. Johns County Sheriff's deputy, all of 19 years old, standing over their shoulder. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a chilling effect, and we're not putting up with that in our county, and not in my country. I would like to call on the board to cancel the trip to Puerto Rico for 3 board members. That's unnecessary. Not one of the board members is presenting at that conference in Puerto Rico. And I think it's a disgrace that the board is spending money, sending commissioners to a conference outside the continental United States where none of the board members will be presenting. That's just wrong.
I'm presenting.
I was told, please don't interrupt. She just said not to interrupt. You just did that. Please don't interrupt me. Anyway, I had learned from another commissioner today that no one was presenting, that there was not a board member track at that meeting. Anyway, there's too much waste, fraud, and abuse here. 36% cost overruns on that mosquito control museum over there. That's unacceptable. And I think Commissioner Gardner needs to listen to Commissioner Gleason and the other commissioners and the public and not start a meeting by chilling our free speech rights. Our founding fathers put those rights in the Constitution for a reason. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that hasn't turned in a card that would like to speak? All right, so the next item is approval of the agenda, except for we're adding in item number 5 under new business. And that's a matter we should vote on now, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So item number 5 pertains to the memo Dr. Shu gave us regarding hiring an off-duty deputy. Dr. Shu?
Yes. It's a couple commissioners asked anything because of the December meeting situation. So that our receive email and from a law firm, the concerned about one of former board member maybe give some kind of issue, or the concerned about other commissioner consider meeting safety, occurred the situation climate and saying we need to have some people protecting elected officer. And the public service is a dangerous job sometimes. So the other government look at the situation, so have some kind of meeting safety, so that lucky today have not to see anything happen here, the parade, yeah. So other thing, after we ask the chief officer, so the off-duty, they charge $55 per hour, so that that's the reason present to board the kind of discussion we need or not. So that after board approval, now we can need a budget amendment. That's about $1,400 for next 9 months. If we need next month, for next budget year, we will budget this.
Commissioner Gleason?
I have a question, because I'm very confused. I called Dr. Shu to try to understand why we were requesting this. And when I spoke to you, and I relayed that to Mrs. Hodges, I thought that there was some sort of credible threat, but the individual that we're concerned about is not even present at this meeting. And honestly, since December, and she was disruptive, but she wasn't, I haven't received any threats. Has anybody on this
New
board received
commissioner.
any threats? I'm asking each commissioner, have you received threats from Ms. Brandhurst? Because that's what I was told, that she was threatening. So my question is, and and it's not a yes or no, I'm more concerned that what precedent us voting on this is going to set, because having somebody asking tough questions of us as board members is not disruptive, in my opinion. Yelling, screaming, calling us names, threatening us, maybe that's it. But in my 2 years on this board, I have not experienced that. So it's not a question about cost. For me, it's more of a question of what kind of message are we sending to the public when a mosquito control board that we hardly ever have anybody at these meetings is all of a sudden putting in an armed officer. That's my only comments.
Commissioner Becker?
I would just add that kind of talk we could do when we talk about it, but now we're just saying if we can add it to the agenda.
No, she's asking, said we have to vote on it, that's why we were
We have to
told.
vote if we want to add it to the
Right,
agenda,
exactly.
not vote if we're
Right.
going to approve it right now.
Right, so through the chair, and there's one or two ways you can do this, but the issue at hand is adding it to the agenda. So if you don't add it to the agenda, then likely the commissioner will just automatically have it added under your rules. So this one item wasn't on that projected agenda. It's a new item. So to get into the merits of whether or not it's a good
Okay.
proposal or not, I think is more appropriate. Let's see if the motion passes. It may not even
Okay.
pass.
Okay. Thank you.
And then
thought
we
we-
could
I
talk
thought we
about
were-
it.
I thought we
Yeah,
were
we're just
voting on it.
voting to put it on the agenda.
Correct.
Sorry,
Just
very
wanted to
confused.
clear that up, so we're.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Right, and so through the chair, one or two ways to do this. You could actually move the agenda as presented with the second, open that up for discussion, take amendments to the agenda to add it, right? So just like any regular motion, you could do it that way. Or you could do a motion to add the item, but then you need to come back with another motion to actually adopt the agenda as amended.
That makes sense. So either way you go, there's still two items you'd be voting on to accomplish adding this item to the agenda.
So do we take a vote to see if we're going to add it to the agenda?
Correct.
Okay.
Because if you don't add it, you're voting on the agenda minus that item if it doesn't pass.
Okay,
Correct.
all right. So do we have a motion?
You need a motion and a second.
Commissioner Becker?
I'd like to make a motion to add number 5, approving hiring a law enforcement security officer at regular board meetings for safety and/or meeting decorum reasons to the agenda to talk about and discuss.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All in,
The public comment.
So Commissioner Becker made the motion and Commissioner Gonzalez.
I'm sorry, yes. Commissioner Mazzata, second. All right, all in favor?
Public comment?
We have public comment.
So,
All right.
yeah, through the chair. You can, I mean, this is an internal governance item, but as the chair, if you want to allow this public comment, just like with the minutes, you wouldn't take it on that. But if you want to allow it, you certainly can.
Do I have to?
It's an internal item from the board, right? So that's in your discretion as chair. And then when you get to this item, the public pursuant to your policy would be able to have their 3 minutes to comment on the merits of the item.
Are you okay with that?
No, I'd like to speak about putting it on the agenda.
All
I don't
right.
think it belongs because of your 10-day rule. Isn't it true that the 10-day rule of the AMCD says you have to put something on the agenda 10 days before a meeting? And we're not told which commissioner proposed this. The public has a right to know. Article 1, Section 24 of the Florida Constitution was adopted in 1983 by the vote of the, 1992 by the vote of the people of Florida. 83% of the people in Florida voted for that amendment. Please show them the respect that they're due.
Ms. Hodges, would you comment on that for us?
Certainly I can, but I just want to remind you that, public comment, as you read in your rules, is not a place for dialogue.
Right.
But that being said, I will state for the record that there is a rule that any commissioner can add an item to the agenda automatically if they meet that time frame. So there's 10 days that they have, and then the backup materials have to be given before the board book is distributed. If a commissioner meets that time frame, it's automatically on the agenda. So the commissioner's not having to come to this body and ask for permission to add it on. When you miss that deadline, then we're in the posture we're in today where with any agenda, you can add items, you can remove items, you can make corrections. So everything that the commissioner is doing today, along with the director, is certainly in proper, good legal order.
Parliamentary inquiry, though, under our rules, are they allowed to put something on the agenda without saying who put it on the agenda? Because the backup material is very shallow and doesn't tell us who put it on the agenda. There's no statement of background or need, and it's certainly lacking in a certain degree of, shall we say, legal or academic rigor. You read that memo, you don't know why it's on there. We're wasting taxpayer money here. Please stop. And please stop chilling free speech rights, just as happened here in 2007 at the other board location. We have a right to speak, and we have a right to be heard, and it's just really curious that you would put on the agenda.
Your 3 minutes is up, buddy.
Your turn.
Yeah, you got to keep the time clock, right? You got to gavel.
She had time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reynolds 112, Aricola, I agree, it should be on the agenda. Please put it on the agenda. It's a very important issue to have security at all public meetings. I've been to over 3,000 public meetings, and I got to admit, I'm uncomfortable without law enforcement at the door. And the cops don't even like me.
Can you opine on the question as to whether the board member's name has to be
No,
disclosed?
so through the chair, no. I mean, so what you have here is a member that made a motion. So technically pursuant to this meeting, you got the commissioner who made the motion to add it to the agenda. That's the extent of that. If there are written records, of course, there are public records requests that members of the public can make. But in terms of getting to the point that we are on the agenda, if there had to be a name divulged as far as where it germinated, who thought of the idea, there's no requirement for that, but for purposes of this meeting, there has to be a commissioner to make that motion. So it was Trish Becker that made the motion to add it to the agenda for purposes of this meeting.
We'll take a vote. All in favor? Those opposed? Commissioner Gleason opposed. All right. So I'd like to get approval of the agenda with that addition to the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, do we have a second?
I have a question.
Okay. Commissioner
For
Becker?
the MOU with Mosquito Mate, did Ms. Hodges, you get a chance to look over this
That's
contract?
part of the consent, so we haven't, isn't it?
It is, right, through the chair. So,
We
thank you,
haven't-
Commissioner
This is
Gleason.
the agenda,
If we
not the-
could,
Not
agenda.
the consent agenda yet.
So we haven't got to the consent.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor? I'm sorry, Mr. Mazzata, approved, yes. Do we have? Commissioner Becker, are you going to vote?
Oh,
on?
I'm
Yes, unanimous. Okay. Now I'll call for approval of the consent agenda.
I have,
All right,
I would like to put pull items number 3, 5, and 6 and move them to 3, 5, and 6 and make them new business 6, 7, and 8. And then pull number 7 and make it new old business number 5.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So you want me to say what the numbers are? So like,
Number
okay, so
3.
number 3 is the board members to attend FMCA Tallahassee legislation meeting. Number 5, Commissioner Mazzata to attend AMCA annual meeting in San Juan, Puerto Rico, which is and number 6, which is Dr. Shu's AMCA presidential travel activity. Move that to new business 6, 7, and 8. And then number 7, which is MOU between AMCD and Mosquito Mate, to old business number 5. Sorry for making the meeting longer. Apologies.
Do we have a second?
so through the chair, your rules don't require a vote.
No.
Any member of the
Oh, okay.
board
We
can
can
pull an
vote.
item from the agenda.
All right,
Yep. So now you would just vote on the consent agenda, but you do need to take public comment,
do we have public comment?
if there is any.
Mr. Slavin?
I agree with Commissioner Gleason. There's way too much stuff on the consent agenda, and these issues need to be discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm lost. Where do we go?
You need a motion, to do there's no motion.
Yeah,
So,
there's-
was there?
you can make the motion for the
Right.
consent agenda
And a second.
Do we, I will make a,
You want me to make it easy
yeah,
and do it?
yes, please.
I move that we approve the consent agenda with items 3, 5, and 6 being moved to new business number 6, 7, and 8, and item number 7 being moved to old business number 5.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Becker seconds. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Dr. Shu?
Thank you. Yeah, we have a database service software with Mobi software almost over 10 years. So that it was a custom-made database. And last couple of years, we have some kind of problem. And employee who uses this as some kind of complaint. Also, the database software is too old. Currently, we have needed update and include our mapping system, internal phone and Apple and public phone Apple software. So we publish the RFP, we receive a file, so we have community, the people deal with the IT and use the database every day. So we have a community make a selection, so that after selection, we recommend frontiers for further discussion and negotiation for contract. Board needed, I recommend the board to approve the concept, and we'll deal with the lawyer, and the lawyer work on the contract, then bring it back to board for the discussion, final approval.
I have a question.
please.
So the company that came up on top in terms of the review, but I noticed there was a total cost given and not the breakdown of the cost. And in my sad experience and many years in public and the private sector, the costliest part of a project and like this is the data migration and testing. And I don't see that broken out in the bid that was given, nor do we have a contract that I can review, a draft contract that says, okay, we're gonna cap costs at X. These kind of contracts can take a life of their own once they get into the data. So Frontier, are they in the room?
Yeah, Frontier coming.
Can I ask you a question on that? What's your estimate or guesstimate for data migration? Because what I received was that you guys only gave us a total
Yeah.
cost for the whole project.
So I'm Chad Mintier. I'm the product manager for
Thank
Field
you.
Seeker.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being
Located
here.
in Jacksonville, so not that far of a drive. So yeah, it's broken out on page 15 of the
Okay.
response.
So why wasn't it on the, yeah, but look what it says on the board, no, the total cost was given only. Total
Okay,
cost.
right. Yeah, custom development and GIS services is
This
lumped
is what
together there.
they
The
gave us
total
for-
database migration price, let me see.
I didn't know why it wasn't broken. Let me finish. She had-
I'm sorry, Commissioner Becker?
Just while we're talking about this,
Okay,
in
yeah.
the presentation
Yeah,
on
look.
page 12, 13, and 14 has a broken down cost.
Yeah, what I'm referring to is the paperwork that the district gave us for the board book. They break out the cost for everybody else, but for your bid, they didn't do that. They just put a total cost.
Oh, I got you.
So
So,
I'm just like, I'm confused as to why these forms are not matching up. So let me
Which-
ask you this question this way.
yeah,
So you have the total cost here.
right.
Does that total up to 199,870, which is what they put on this form?
Yeah.
Was the only number that they gave us.
So do you have the bid response
Yeah,
there
I'm
in
looking
hand?
for it now, looking for your page. So I went
Page
through
12.
these.
Page 11, 12, and 13 breaks it down, 12 and
Pricing
13.
summary as well on page 15, it kind of sums up the different things, the different sections.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so here's where I'm confused. That's what it was. So you have different things here, but when you look at the RFP form, it says replacement or transition of the database, movement of data, and testing. It's, unless I'm missing it on your,
Yeah, page 15,
Proposal.
line number 2,
So
140.
it's on page 16, G2.
okay, she said 15,
Yeah.
okay, G2.
It lumps it together there according
Oh,
to
it lumps
the-
it together, okay.
according to the price sheet that the RFP had. It's broken down a little bit more on page 13, because you're absolutely right. The data migration of 20-plus years of data and testing is the largest part of this project. The software licenses themselves are a relatively minor part of it.
Right.
So that data migration part, we estimated on page 13, we break it down a little further according to estimated hours. So data migration for database, archive database, and mappings, 160 hours. functional migration for the database, archive database mapping and employee phone application is 320 hours, and a plug-in for a mass notification system of 160 hours. So
Doing a total, is that the 47,000 or is that something?
that's the 144,000. It's
144.
Yeah, 640 hours. And honestly, our estimates of the time are much higher than 640 hours, but that's what we chose to charge the district. And so this is a fixed cost bid unless there's an actual expansion of scope and an agreed on change request. So those are the prices we would honor. It's $144,000 for these customizations or less. And we
So
charge
of the
according to it.
199,000, 144,000 is data migration.
Data migration
testing.
and custom features that weren't already in the software to
Okay.
begin with.
And since I don't have a draft contract with we've had with other RFPs, is there gonna, now I'm gonna address the question to her. How do we protect against us not exceeding the stated price?
So there should be and will be a contract term that says that the district's maximum indebtedness is X.
Okay.
That's standard. Of course, you don't have that now because you don't have a contract. So I think what the director is asking is that the board, award to the number one ranked bidder in accordance with the RFP process, and then come back in a step two. So I would see this as step one. And then the step two, which ultimately binds the district, that's at the point where the contract's before you and that's binding. And we may not get to a step two, right? I mean, we could, once we craft that agreement, and there could be terms that we don't, in theory, there could be. But I think what the director's asking you to do, and you can do this or not, is award today to the number one, and then move to the second phase, which is finalizing that contract and bringing that back to you for review.
Okay, and let me finish and I'll let, my concern here, I'm just gonna be straight out honest with you, 199,000 was your total, 199,870, 144,000 now. I find out after coupling up these numbers is what the migration is. The second highest bidder, their total cost was 200,000, basically, you guys were a few $100s off. But their total migration cost was 70,000. So I'm asking this question, not of you, of Dr. Shu. When you guys reviewed the RFPs and ranked them, did you understand the total cost of migration?
Yeah, they look at our IT business, the group, they all look at the situation. There's a major concern about it.
Dr. Qualls, you had it.
For the second bid, I think was Mobisoft, and they're the ones who already contain our data, so there wouldn't be a lot of data migration.
Okay,
from
now
what
I'm
I
talking,
understand.
I guess maybe I'm talking, the second one on my forms here is MGIS. I'm not saying not to go with them, I'm just saying that what did you rank? Because obviously, nobody filled in these lines for Frontier, so I'm not sure if folks that were reviewing the RFP understood what each of these lines were, or that you just forgot, because the note here says, no, total cost given. And it looks like from just reviewing Frontiers, that they gave you a lot of the cost breakdown, so I don't understand where we're missing the components in your ranking form. And that's not their responsibility, that's the district's. So I seriously have questions, because it shouldn't be up to me as a board member to try to take Frontiers presentation, which was very nice, by the way, and try to figure out in which bucket it belongs in an RFP form that we developed. So,
We will have a very detailed negotiated contract, include everything, next meeting present for.
yeah, it's 144,000, and again, I've been there, so I know it could cost a lot of money, so I'm not questioning your pricing. I'm questioning the fact that the district understand what they were ranking when they ranked it, because obviously, it's not here. And I'm supposed to be going off your recommendation that this is the best proposal, but you're not filling in your own forms. And this is not, please, this is not your fault. This is really on us.
Mr. Mazzata has a question.
I have a question. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, so I did look at all of these bids. Mobisoft is our current holder?
Yes.
Okay,
Over 10 years.
okay, thank you. Well, that would explain why theirs isn't as in-depth
Right.
or very informative. So, thank you. That was my only question at this time.
But even they have all the items itemized. And all I can think of is you guys didn't know, and it's not your fault, you gave a proposal, they could have picked up the phone and called you. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm trying to see where does it aligned. I don't know, have you seen this form? Because I don't want to lose you because I'm confusing you. There's a form that says, there's 5 buckets of cost.
Yeah, was it
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
included in
And-
the RFPs
yeah.
and, yeah.
And then I'm trying to match up your breakdowns with which line item it belongs to. And this one and one other vendor is the only form that is missing the components. Yeah, Leading Edge is the only 2 forms out of the 5 bids that are missing the components. And my biggest concern is on data migration and testing. That's where the wheels come off the bus when you go and implement.
Commissioner Becker, did you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one, I just want to remind everyone that RFPs are good, but it doesn't mean as a board, we have to do what the team that made the RFPs and judge them. We don't have to vote that way. This is a suggestion, and each commissioner is supposed to read all of our books and then make our own decisions based off of what we think and
I
with
agree.
what the board. So I do understand that, and I think that we should maybe update a policy to make sure that that's not empty again, but I think it's a little bit wasteful of his time, because this is like an internal thing that we need to fix.
There's not,
And I would add, on
Right.
page 15 of our response, we explain the difference between what's on this one and
Where-
the way that our proposal matches up
Can you-
with the
can you tell us
project
what
as
page?
described, page 15.
Page 15.
So as it explains, our categories don't match the RFP's categories exactly. The RFP calls for a fixed price for replacement or transition of the database, the archive database, the mapping database, the employee phone application, and the public phone application. Because our solution uses ArcGIS Online, the database, the archive database, the mapping database, and the employee phone app are all included in one software solution. So we can't break that out into categories easily. Functionality is delivered in the Field Seeker mobile app, which corresponds to the employee phone app, the Field Seeker Office web application, which has management, reporting, and configuration, plugins for payroll, and ArcGIS Online apps and workflows. So that's things that are built for public outreach, web maps, dashboards, et cetera. So if we had to divide the above total for purchase and implementation costs into the categories on the ranking form, we would group 1 through 4 into one, and then the public phone application into the other.
Okay.
Dr. Qualls, do you have?
Could I finish my comments?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, so one of the biggest things we've been faced with in the last few years is our map systems crash, our employees are having a hard time. Anytime I bring this up, I'm told that it's someone in India and they do not call back and we haven't heard from them in forever. So one, could you state where the company is at?
Yeah, our company is based in Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm located in Jacksonville, Florida. And we have developers in-house that are US-based, and we also have an offshore team as well. Our entire support team and implementation team is US. We do business with about 275 other mosquito control districts and operations in the United States, and some in Canada and in Australia. So we're well experienced with supporting people in mosquito control operations, and we have a formalized support system and support desk and dedicated support staff. So that problem of not being able to get a hold of somebody because the company's in India and they only have one customer, that is AMCD, that is not a problem that you would have with Frontier.
And then next on So the system, you're gonna come in and you guys are gonna fix the mobile app that we have. Can we rename that app?
Yeah, it's going to be a new mobile app.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because that app is horrendous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people have to type in MGIS in the App Store, and then they have to download EMS, and none of that has anything to do
Right.
with AMCD, so
Not at
people
all
think it's like a
intuitive.
scam
Right.
when I tell residents. So that's gonna be updated. The data apps that are gonna be on our employees' phones, those are also gonna be updated. They'll be able
Yeah.
to clock in and send messages and all of that. That's gonna be updated as
Yeah,
well.
and that's a standard application that's used by all of those districts. We have about, I don't know, it's like 2,500 individual users of that app. So, yeah, it's on the app stores. And it's called Mosquito, Field Seeker Mosquito, so it makes some sense.
And then for the data that's on our computers, that's all gonna get updated as well?
Yeah, the system has both the Office application, which is web-based, just browser-based, and then those mobile applications, which are on the app stores. And they both refer to data that's in. I've used this term Esri, ArcGIS Online. Esri is like the big GIS company that everybody uses. So all of the maps and data are on Esri's ArcGIS Online system. So all of these client apps can use the same data.
Okay. As you might be aware, we are a GIS lab, or a GLP lab, a good labs practices, so we have to follow very strict rules on keeping our data very encrypted. We work with a lot of confidential information that has to do with the Department of Defense and other issues, so you all will be able to make sure that's as safe and updated as possible.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we use Esri, because Esri has, if you go to trust.arcgis.com, Esri has all of those security bases covered as far as, encryption and authorization and data safety, data storage and all of that.
We had one of our insurance members come a couple of months ago and present, and one of the issues we talked about was the cyber attacks that keep happening on government organizations. Is there extra steps that we can take to protect our stuff here that you're not doing or that you will do?
That is largely covered by just having it in a system like ArcGIS Online. So it's not something that's on county servers. It's not something that is on local computers that people can hack into.
I can't remember where I saw it, but there was somewhere where it said you will be updating everything frequently.
Like the applications, we update the mobile application at least every quarter, if not more often. Is that what you're talking about, like
Yes,
software
our
updates?
mobile app hasn't
Yeah.
been updated in over 2 years, even though
Yeah.
we've continually asked.
We do internal updates on basically a 2-week sprint schedule, and then we do a release schedule to the public that's about every quarter.
And then I'd also just, for the board members, as part of Mobisoft's presentation, they even mentioned how outdated all of our stuff was, even though they're the ones that did it and won't talk to us. I'd also just like to add that I've been here, this is my 6th year, and I have seen Frontier, not specifically you, but the company, at a lot of events, and you have a very good reputation, and thank you for applying.
Yeah, thank you.
One last question, it should be easy.
All right.
Easy peasy. Where are your servers located?
Where are our servers located? So it's in Esri's ArcGIS Online system.
Okay,
So we don't have servers where we store the data. It's in Esri's ArcGIS Online system, and they answer those questions at that trust.
okay,
So I think the short answer is all over the world because they're a global company.
okay.
But for US-based companies, especially government or local government, that have any issue of data sovereignty, then they can ensure that the data is in servers that are in the United States.
Okay, so we could depend that if we're a government entity, that our data would reside in servers that are located in the US.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Falls, did you have comments?
No, I think that my only comment was per the question about the sheets with Leading Edge and Frontier. I think that Mr. Mentor kind of explained that because both of those companies are ones that already have a lot of that built into their structure because they're dealing a lot with mostly mosquito control programs or public public health entities that do this type of work. So that, I wasn't on the committee for this, but I would think, since you said Leading Edge also didn't have the breakdown, that because both of them are very specific.
And for me, it wasn't about you and the company, that I was asking staff, when that situation happens, there has to be an attempt to at least try to do some sort of, either call it out, there's the information, it's not totally apples to apples, or something for us, because that component of, and you know this, of response
Yeah.
is pretty critical, because that's where a lot of cost is. And that was my only comment there.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yes, do we have any questions or comments?
Thank you.
We need a motion to,
Oh,
Yeah, so do we have a motion, Commissioner Becker?
as long as it's subject to the
I'd like to make a motion to approve Frontier Precision to be our new,
Before you make that motion, can I ask a question?
And I'll second.
Ms. Hodges first.
can you say it in the microphone?
Yeah, can I ask you a question, Ms. Hodges, first before the motion is made? So the contract's not here. So can we make a motion to approve without the contract, and then if the contract, if something were to go weird on the contract?
Is it your
How would we
intent?
make that motion? Because we don't have the contract. We don't even
Right,
have
right.
draft
Is it your,
contract.
but it's not your intent to not see the contract, because you're required to see the contract, correct?
Yes, subject
Right.
to getting the
So,
contract.
right, you just make a motion to award to Frontier as the top-ranked firm to enter into negotiations with the contract,
Okay.
subject to district approval,
Okay.
I have a question.
something to that.
The motion was already made and it was seconded, so does that mean that motion needs to be amended?
Will somebody second it?
Can we restate, what was your, can you restate that motion?
You made the motion.
I only made the motion just now.
And I seconded it.
Oh,
Right, yeah. We had a motion.
so what motion
So
did you make?
I'm making a motion to accept Frontier Precision as our awarded contract, and that they will come back next month with the contract that will be reviewed.
Right.
But we're just awarding them the scope of work, and they will come back with the contract. We're just picking which company now and not picking the contract.
And I second.
Wait.
Yeah, I mean, through the chair, I mean, that gets to the same place. The magic language here is the contract needs to come back to the district for approval. And you captured that in your motion.
Okay.
And I
Commissioner
seconded.
LeBlanc, second? Okay. All in favor?
Public comment?
Oh, wait a minute. Got that part.
Through the chair, just to ask, are you not getting speaker cards to let you know when somebody does have a
Well,
public
Mr.
comment?
Slavin filled out 3 speaker cards.
Okay, so
and
just
they're
make-
not specific as to what comment, what subject we're discussing.
Okay, so it'd just be helpful in the future just to know which item on the agenda. That way, instead of you having to jump up, Mr. Slavin, and catch the public comment.
It's all on the cards that list each item. I support the motion, but I am concerned that this vendor did not present us with a contract. We need to be more rigorous in our approach to contracting. We need to reform government contracting as we know it. And I'm very impressed with the red line version that Learned Counsel did on another contract here. It's called an MOU, but it should be a contract. And she added a non-discrimination clause. Every single mosquito control contract needs to have a non-discrimination clause. That's not negotiable. It's Title VII, it's Supreme Court precedent, and I really like what you drafted. Thank you. But we need to be more rigorous. Our business operations here are not very well run.
Thank you, Mr. Slavin. All right. So we voted, it's unanimous, moving on.
Did we take a vote on that?
Did we? Yes.
We did?
Oh,
Okay.
no,
We
we
had a
allowed
motion,
public.
we had a
I'm
second.
sorry, I'm
Public
sorry.
comment.
yeah. Yeah, thank you, Microsoft. We almost 12 years, and from the beginning, first the customer, we did a lot of work. Thank you, appreciate it, and that's one we can say. Really appreciate it for last 12 years. We work together, figure out, try to help each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to retake the vote?
No, you're fine. Mrs. Keating confirmed that you had all raised your hands, so it's fine.
Now we have some.
All right.
too.
Okay, item 2,
Thank you.
Dr. Shu.
Yeah, the board in November 2 resolution, one is creating new position, full-time HR person, and the salary range is $50,000 to $70,000. Also, motion to resolution to looking for consulting, HR consulting. So we, after publish RFP, we received 2 during last meeting. So some board member has some question, but the 2 company didn't show up. We informed them before. So then after the meeting, I inform 2 company again. We have a question for the member. Please, you have time coming, or you call in, or just coming for the meeting. So that after look at it, so one company ask $60,000 to $70,000 per year. Just then we have other full-time HR. Now one company is ask MGT, ask by hour, depending need. How many hour, different level. After I think I look at again, we have a full-time HR there. We hire one, hire should be soon. So then we have another $60,000, $70,000 pay one company do that. So I think it's better for pay by hour based on district need, based on our need. My recommendation is high contract with the MGT based on need and pay our rate. The hour very reasonable, look at different level, different year. So then we can currently we start hiring the HR, full-time HR. Thank you, Commissioner Glisa, give him the website. After publishing as HR, we collect over 65 applications. And the majority is payroll and other things. Because automatic, no current AI, called the Zipper Recruit. Anything include AI, but only 5, 6 really have experiences with HR. So we end of January, we start interview in February. So my recommendation, current situation, so we contract with MGT for consulting service. Also, MGT has the people here.
Oh, there,
Yeah, also one's online
wondering.
calling.
I think the questions we had in December was really, could you give us an overview of yourselves and just present yourself to the board and what you can do for us, especially small government entity with an HR.
Okay, good
HR
evening. My name is Carla Mazik, and I have been working with MGT for, contracted with them a little over, maybe about a year now, but I've been doing human resources for, do I have to tell you how long?
No.
Let's just say a really long
A long time.
A long time.
Why?
Have been a human resources director for nonprofits and for-profit organizations for quite a long time. My husband and I recently moved to Florida. It was 3 years, day before yesterday was our 3-year. So we live in Jacksonville, and so this is a very close, I was able to drive down here really, really quickly. We live right on the edge of St. Johns County, right in Duval. And so I work with a lot of organizations, nonprofit, like I said, and for-profit organizations. I was the director of human resources for the International City County Management Association in Washington, D.C. for several years. So I've worked with government agencies for a long time. So what I do now a lot is deal with organizations that don't have their own internal human resources. So sometimes they hire me to be their director of human resources. Sometimes they hire me for projects. They want me to come in and help them write a new policy, or they want a new handbook, or they want to hire me to help them find a new position. So I'll write job descriptions and do some recruiting. It depends on what the need is. But whatever the need is, we sit down and we talk about it, get it to, and I do it. So I think that when we bid on this particular program, it was because it was I'm close by. You can call me up. You say, Carla, I need, this is what we need to do, and I can talk to you over the phone, or I can zip down here and we can sit down and get it done, because I've done everything. a generalist by nature. I've done everything in human resources, from benefits to recruiting to coaching to you name it. So I look forward to working with you all, with Dr. Shu, and whatever is needed in the organization.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions? Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Report?
Hi, thank you for applying. So you said that you're contracted by MGT?
Well, I work with MGT. I am, well, technically, I work with them as a 1099, so they contract with me. I contract with them.
Okay,
So
so
they
we
would-
still have the contract with MGT and not
Yes.
with you specifically?
Yes, MGT is the employer.
Okay. I think that our biggest issue facing our district right now, other than the rising mosquito-borne diseases that are happening in this world, is a lack of HR. We do not have a person here that can give a viable, professional, specialist voice in areas that we really need it. And so that's why I have been trying to get an HR person for quite some time. So we're going to have an HR person here full-time. And what the hope was is that if something happens, then they can call you up and you would be able to, what is on the fee and structure payments on page 15? It's got like different rates. Which one are you?
I would be the lead person, but not the director. I'll look on that page and see. I'm the second person. I believe they had a director and a,
Like consultant,
Consultant,
senior
senior
consultant, director, analyst, consultant.
I think senior
president.
consultant is where I am.
Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Mary Jacobs with MGT. I might be able to answer some of those questions as well.
Oh,
She's still there.
you were
Yeah,
so
she's
quiet,
still
we
there.
forgot about you.
I'm still here.
Hi, Mary.
All right.
Madam Chair, may I answer that question for
You certainly may. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, this is Mary Jacobs. I am a director with the Human Capital Operating Group of MGT, and we're very pleased to be with you, me remotely, and Carla there, in order to support the Mosquito Control District. Regarding our rates, Carla is one of the senior consultants, so she's at that 224 rate, and I am the director. I would only be brought in if there was a need for senior advising. My background is I spent 28 years in city management, and so I've had a lot of exposure to human resources issues. And really, I think what MGT brings to the table with Carla as the lead, and she's nearby and can be very accessible to you quickly, is we bring a team behind you. And you'll notice that we have another one of our senior consultants on the list, Rodney Crane. Rodney spent time in human resources for the city of Austin. He's also been in the private sector, and Rodney will be partnering with Carla for sort of day-to-day things. And then we also have specialists behind us in, for example, classification and compensation. If that's something that, at some point you want to take a look at, we would be able to do that. And we have other consultants that we could bring in depending on your need. We understand, because we've been in local government, that your dollars are precious. And we don't want to charge you any more than what you need. And so we would work very closely with you and your team to find, how we can assist. And if you accept to do all of the work and you just need a few hours of our time, then we're happy to do that for you. So I know it's difficult on a telephone call, so I'll be quiet right now and be happy to answer any other questions between Carla and I. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
And with that, I was wondering if there is something like, something I would like to have done as a culture survey in-house. So that's something that'll take more than 1 hour. Is there a way we could maybe, come up with certain plans and then we can put together instead of worrying about
Yes.
hours here and there,
Yeah.
we can add that to the contract.
Yeah, we'll work with you. If this is not, Mary will attest to this, we don't, I'm not a nickel and dimer, that's not the kind of organization we are, so we want to sit down and let's talk about what the needs are. If we're going to look at it annually or over the next 3 months, this is what we'd like to do, this is how long we think it'll take, this is, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Well, that kind
And
of
then, are there certain topics, like things that are maybe too little for you to help us with, or too big? Some of the things that I've mentioned are changing our pay structure, updating our policies, things like that. Is that something that you can help us with?
If we needed to do a full compensation study, I would probably reach to Mary because we have a compensation team that does that. That's a specialized thing. It would need to be done right because you have several employees and we're looking across. I can do it for 10 people, for 5 people, but if it's, large, we want to do it right. If it's a policy, I've written many policies, so I would look at it. We talk, I'd say, let me see what you're talking about, and I tell you if it's something I would do, or if I think I have a deep bench working with MGT. So there's some things, depending on the level of complexity, that I can do myself, and then there's some things that I might refer that I need a deep bench with to help. And I would reach out to Mary, and we talk about it.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Sure. Go ahead, Ms.
Thank you.
Jacobs.
What I would recommend is that we would include in the contract like a job order contracting almost, where if you wanted something that was like a culture survey, then we'd work with you, you'd give us the scope, and we would actually give you back a specific proposal with a certain number of hours that we would agree on, and then you would know what the budget is, how much it's going to cost, and we would then proceed under that we could do it as a separate purchase order for that particular project. There's a lot of different ways that we can do it, but we want you to know what it's going to cost you. We can give you a range of hours or just work with you on a scope that would meet your needs.
No surprises.
And then my last thing about it is, I think we're kind of, from what I could gather, we're thinking that you will be helpful to the board, the director, the assistant director, and the managers. And then our new generalist will be here for everyone. Is that kind of how that's going to work? Is that a good way? Or is this like you'll be taking care of could the employees call you, or how should this be set up?
I think we need to look at it. I mean, I think that you don't want two different systems going where I'm saying something to managers and to you, and then I have someone else here saying something different. So I think we want to be lockstep.
Yes.
That's important. So I would want to meet with the person that's here so that we are on the same track. And then let's go from there. It's hard to say, since I've never even met the person and I'm just meeting.
We don't even have any
Yeah.
person.
Okay, the person's not, yeah, I think you said
yet.
that you're on ZipRecruiter or something
We're
looking at it.
We're starting
Yeah.
from scratch.
So, and I
we
might,
just want to get everything leveled so there is no confusion. Everyone
Yes.
knows who to go to. And
yes, but I think it's important that there's alignment.
Yes.
And you don't want, oh, I said this and oh, she said that. And I think it's important that we're aligned.
Mr. Mazzotti, do you have a question?
I do have a question. So have we looked at the average or or estimated how many hours we will need? This question is, I think, for you, Dr. Shu. Based on it, like in the past years, how many hours we would have needed for whatever situations total for the year. Because if you add up this hourly rate, 240 hours, 250 hours, you're at 60,000.
Yeah, probably we depend the current situation because we're coming new budget, prepare budget, need a job description and the composition start. That's number one. We'll have to do that. And our had a new HR, hopefully start end of February. So probably in February, we need a meeting, maybe weekly and 3-4 hours. So then later, after had HR, we need to set it together. I need to set up a budget. We don't expect too many hours because we have full-time HR. Hire your company just for consulting based on need. So we look, I don't want to pay another $60,000, $70,000 for another HR. They really depend on the issue.
Commissioner
Okay,
Gleason?
so I'm very thoroughly confused right now. When we were asking MGT, my understanding was that we were actually, before we hired the full-time person, we wanted a HR firm to come in and look at our policies, HR policies, tell us where they were deficient, help us draft new ones, look at the pay scales. I mean, that was what I thought was in scope of work.
Yeah.
And I'm confused now what's in the scope of work because we're all over the map now. So I think, to be fair to MGT, because I think that's who looks like we're going with, and I really did like your presentation. We need a scope of work to give them. For them to be speaking to us about what's it going to cost without them having specifics as to what we're asking them to do. And that's going to be part of the contract. What's in that Exhibit A? What are we? So I'm looking at you guys as, Mary, I think you're on the phone, and I think you were hitting these words, master service agreement with different scope of works that you can put under them as we go along. So maybe the first scope of work is we need you to look at all our HR policies and make sure that we're in compliance with the law, that we're in compliance with EEOC, that we're not violating anything that untoward, right? And then also the other thing that we've been in very big need of is that benchmarking of our pay scales, like our positions. Are they, those job descriptions appropriately written? Are they at the right pay scale? Well, we don't know. That works, I think, started, 3-4 years ago, and then it stopped. So I think not to belabor the point, I think, and Mary, you can opine on this, your idea of doing what I call in the business, in the other world, a master service agreement with different projects and or scopes of work where you can come back and say, this is what it's going to cost, and then the board approves each piece is probably the way to go.
And I'm also hearing that there's ongoing, like there's no HR. So
Right
then
now.
there could be employee relations matters and other things
And we have
that
those issues,
are,
yes.
daily kind of things that are going on as well.
Yeah, we have those issues as well.
Okay.
So we like whistleblower policies.
I think
Go ahead.
that's a great approach, and we certainly do master service agreements with other clients. I think it gives you a sense of comfort. I think it gives us a clear understanding as to expectations. And then there could be simply for the ongoing, well, there's so many hours authorized, and then if we, start to get close to that, then it comes back to the board, and Dr. Hsu can maybe explain then, what have been some of the situations or whatever. So yes, I agree. We want you to be comfortable with how using your resources. We are former public service, public sector employees. We know what it's like, and whatever we can do to give you that comfort, we are happy to do so.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Does anyone else have questions for Ms. Carla?
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds, do you have public comment?
Tom Reynolds, 112 R.E. Cola. Listening to it, you're going to hire a human resources person. Well, if you hire a human resources person that's been around Florida for a long time, they should know quite a bit. And it almost does seem like this is way premature. cart before the horse. I do like what Ms. Gleason said about the, giving these folks what you want done. But truly, your first step should be hiring that human resources, and that should be pretty fast. And one other thing I'm having just a little bit of a hard time, like if I was somebody that was human resources or employed here, and I had a question, I think I would contact someone in the county and say, hey, I'm over here at the Anastasia Mosquito District. I'm the human resources person. Hey, what do you do when you come across this situation? So don't be afraid to lean on these other people, especially the county. They have a lot of really good people over there. And, with the exception of maybe one or two departments, they do an excellent job at the county. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. All right.
Oh, did
Card.
he had a card.
Mr. Slavin?
Looking at the agenda book, there's not enough detail in here. There's not a copy of a contract. There's not a copy of a proposal. There's one memo from Dr. Shu to the Board of Commissioners, and this memo is ungrammatical, too. Could somebody please help Dr. Shu with his grammar? And it's really hard to understand him sometimes. I know that people who come to these meetings, and I've got hearing problems, but I can't understand him half the time. And it's been the same way since 2006. I don't think his English abilities have improved. In fact, I understand at one time our education director was hired, who's now a board member, Ms. LeBlanc, to help him, and he needs more help. It's hard to understand him. He's an internationally respected scientist, but we can't understand him. And he talks too fast, and it's really tough. But need to know in terms of this contract, are they going to look at our whistleblower policy? Are they going to look at the fact that we have gag orders at AMCD? And those AMCD gag orders need to be vacated and not enforced, and people need to know that we're not going to have a hostile working environment here. We're not going to have a toxic work environment. We're not going to run off scientists who are qualified. One question is to the billing. Are they going to bill in tenths of an hour, quarters of an hour, or full hours? Because it matters. When people are billing on an hourly rate, there's an incentive to cheat. There's an incentive to pad bills. And I know when I was clerking for the Chief Judge of the Labor Department, we were taught how to review attorney fee applications. And if you get an application that every time expenditure was in hours, without a quarter hour, or without a half an hour, or without, they pad. So I think we need to establish a protocol for reviewing bills from vendors. And if they're billing on an hourly rate, we need to make sure that they really did the work. And we need a whistleblower policy second to none. I'm very disappointed that we had a gag order that employees were subjected to last year and this year. And I know Commissioner Jeannie Jackson Moeller, I helped her when she was a board member. She did a whistleblower policy second to none, something that AMCD and the people of St. Johns County can be very proud of. Well, I want to make sure when we're dealing with things like helicopters and environmental contaminants and organophosphate pesticides, that our employees' rights are protected. So I would like to ask the board to ask the consultant for one of their very first tasks to review our whistleblower policy and critique it and QA it and QC it. How can it be improved? How do we protect scientists' rights and employees' rights to speak the truth without fear or favor? Because we're practicing the scientific method. We've got to be rigorous in enforcing our whistleblower provisions. And please, ladies and gentlemen, no more gag orders. That was a sin, a crime, and a tort, and it should never happen again. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Commissioner Gleason?
I just want to respond. One of the comments that I made was including the whistleblower policy, but more importantly, hourly rates. I'm very concerned. That's why I said, master service agreement with scopes of work, which is projects underneath with the total cost, so that we know before you go start the work, what's it going to cost us. It's a way of controlling the hourly rate situation. So that's just a comment.
All right. Does anyone else have questions or comments?
Thank you.
Commissioner Becker, did you have a question?
I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
to approve NGT as the new HR company to help guide us, and we expect them to come back, or we expect to get back a contract with all of the items that we talked
Details,
about.
right. All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Mr. Mazzat, I was looking at him.
I know.
Mr. Mazzati, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Carla. We appreciate you. All right, Dr. Shu.
Thank you. And last year, we conduct RFP. We received 2 campaigning, Harris and one else gave a proposal. So the board was a table, was a part of include storage building. So then we use the number for budget for this year, so that before holiday, we published the RFP. We call several campaigning, include a formal proposal. So finally, we only receive 1 campaigning from Jacksonville. That's a new campaigning called Gourmet. So they look at the detail, they're really specialists for the drainage. The drainage issues happen, so we lots of area after rain, so they cannot accept our test pool and the animal house or the area. So they, after staff discussion, look at the proposal, everything, we need to take my recommendation board to approve this campaigning. Then we start a detailed negotiation about the contract. Then bring back to board for approve the contract.
Commissioner Grayson.
I have several problems with this RFP. Number one being that we're almost $400,000 and we only have 1 bid. I don't understand what our advertising process is for these bids, but literally a $400,000 project should be getting a lot of bids, especially in this area. We have a lot of contractors in this market. If you look at the northeast Florida area, we have a lot of contractors that are capable of doing this work. So I have no clue how this bid was advertised, how long it was advertised for. So that's the first problem. The second problem, when I read their proposal, which by the way is not even page numbered, I don't even know what page it's in. It's section, written hand tab number 4. It says that Mr. Weaver directed us to view the grading and drainage plan for RFP 2324, which is last year's, that was prepared by Matthews DCCM, and used that plan as the basis for our proposal, which we have done. I've asked Ms. Hodges this question, is we're using another contractor's plan that from an RFP that we did not approve. So there is no contract from the site plan there. So if we go forward with this contract and there's something defective, is this going to come back on us because we directed them to use somebody else's plan that we never approved?
It's not different. Mass is design how the complex. So that's the provided information. Mass didn't submit any.
No, Rudy, well, my question is this company is relying on somebody else's plan to do their construction. And my legal question is, if that plan was defective in any way, and we were the ones that said, here, use it, are they going to say, well, it's defective because what you gave me was defective to begin with? So I'm trying to protect the district, and I am not impressed with this presentation. It's not page numbered. I don't know if this company from Adam. It's probably the weakest RFP I've seen this district present us with, and it's almost $400,000. And it's only one. You would think for a $400,000 project, with as many construction companies as we have in this market, that we would have more than one. So I'm, my respectfully to the board is, I would like to see this rebid. I would like to see more bidders come back at this, and I want to understand why we're handing over plans to these companies. I need to understand the legal liability, and I don't understand it right now.
Right.
I don't know what's the protection for us if something goes wrong.
Right, so through the chair, can I address Commissioner Gleason's comment? I don't disagree with anything that she said. There's not a lot of detail that I had. I reached out to Mr. Weaver, trying to answer some of these questions. I mean, generally, there are many procurement methods. One is what's known in the industry as a design bid build. So you hire a separate contractor to do your design. You are protected in that first contract with those architectural engineering plans. You own those plans as a governmental entity, and then you take those plans and you give it to a contractor who actually does the build.
That's what this
One of the questions that I had, and I didn't get answered, was on this particular item. There's design and engineering services that are encompassed in the scope. And so immediately in my procurement mind, that triggers CCNA, which is a type of design build service, and you've got to follow certain dictates under Florida statutes. That's not the same as a regular standard request for proposal. There are dictates in the statute. So the short of the long is, I cannot answer your legal question until I get more information. So one option would be to defer this item. I don't have a copy of the RFP, so I'm not even in a good position to tell you that you can, reject all bids. I wouldn't even want to give you that counsel without first even looking at the RFP. You probably have some language like that in your RFP, but I just don't have that document. And I want to be able to sit down with the staff and Dr. Shu, who worked on this particular item, and I just haven't had the opportunity to do that. So as a district, you could have an option to just defer this item and table it until the next meeting. I don't know what the time, of course, there's always that time sensitivity question, and maybe Dr. Shu can speak to that.
Dr. Shu, would you comment on that?
Yeah, I think there's a Commissioner Gleason and our lawyers good ideas. We can try table this, bring it back, look at it, we do the RFP. It's a surprise, only one submit. Usually should have about 2, 3. So I have no idea what's how we advertise everywhere, Jacksonville newspapers, everywhere. But it's coming here, that, some is coming, couple company, look at the, what's the RFP, look at the site, they didn't want to do it. Some problem of a bigger company, even her construction, they didn't want to do it. Only one thing I worry about it, later, more money pay for. It's the last year, the Harry asked us 330 something.
Right.
Then the other company asked about it, $400,000. It's a good thing for our budget to have a number. But this year, it seems that they asked us 335,000 something. It's in the budget, it's reasonable. I think you about a decision in my table, we can redo it, it's fine.
Anyone have any other comments before we?
No, I'm in agreement. I think we need to have some additional.
Commissioner Becker?
I just want to clarify, wasn't Matthew Design Group, those were the architects of this entire?
Yes.
So, like Ms. Hodges was saying, this was part of the design, build, whatever. So Matthews did the property, and then we hired Harold to build the buildings, and so I think that's what you're saying. So Matthews is
Actually,
the people.
Yeah,
and-
I understand that, but the drainage issue developed after all the stuff was done, so I don't truly understand, and this is more, that's why we were trying to do the fact-finding, is it's great that you have the site plan, but if I hand you this and we develop, all our drainage issues developed afterwards, I
It
need
may
that
not be
appropriate, that's where I am, I'm stuck there.
Is there anyone from company coming?
Do you see what
Oh,
I'm saying?
okay, yeah.
Oh,
You can ask a question, sorry.
can you help?
Wait for the opportunity.
And you're with who?
Gruen May.
Groom.
Right, I'm
I'm
Otto
Can you
Gruen.
pronounce that?
Yeah,
Once again?
pronounce, how do you say it again?
Gruen?
Groon.
Gruen.
Thank you.
Gruen May Inc. Me and my brother own the company. We're both St. Johns County residents, and we've worked, it's the only job we've ever had since high school. What you're seeing with the Matthews Group is they did the original design. This is what they've submitted, their site proposal is their suggestion to deficiencies to the original.
Okay.
These problems that have arisen weren't evident in the original, during the original construction. So with heavy rains and whatnot, these problems became apparent. What we did is we answered all of those or addressed all of their recommendations, and then looked at the site ourselves, shot some elevations, and looked around and identified some more issues, mainly the culvert out front. And then we put prices in all of it and sent it in. So that's why that was done as a recommendation, I guess, to Richard. And so he would know what to ask for pricing on.
Okay. So my apologies for destroying your RFP.
That-
With the page number, and
That's
I didn't
fine.
know it was you.
I'm a ditch digger. I'm not an RFP writer.
But, so where it says, in the, I don't know what page number it is, it's this one. It's up to tab 4, where it says, Mr. Weaver directed us to view the grading drainage plan. You did not stop there. The RFP 2324 that was prepared by
Right.
Matthews.
We went beyond that and added some line items. Culvert crossing the road,
Okay,
lowering a structure over here, the structure too high, and you can't just get water in it.
okay.
Couple little small items, and everything else, changing the wood mulch in the playground to a rubber mulch was something that Matthews Group didn't recommend, and that's what we recommend as well. Certain things like that. So the Matthews thing, we just used as a guideline. We're not relying on that at all. When we contract with you guys, we'll have each line item, and it will stand on its own merits, and not the Matthews recommendations will only be mentioned.
And do you know why nobody else bid?
Yeah, because it's a piecemeal job.
Oh. So
It's 8 little jobs in the middle of a mess that somebody else started, and you're cleaning up, and you can't just come in and mobilize and bring your tractors in and do all that stuff, because you got to keep this area clean, the school has to be open, parking lot has to be accessible. It's not an easy job, it's not complicated.
So from your perspective, you're gonna come in and fix what, for lack of a better word, is the mess that we created ourselves, in a way, in our construction process. Because this was a swamp. Let's just be honest.
yeah.
This whole land that we bought was a swamp.
It's a very odd place to put an EEO.
Yeah, exactly. Let's
But-
just be honest.
But it is what it is. But there's plenty of elevation. The water level in the ponds is low enough.
So do we need to do anything to the pond?
No.
Okay, because I think the prior bid,
That's include storage.
No, there's plenty of
That's
elevation
only
to get
for
the
this.
water to flow into the ponds. If you change the ponds, then you got to re-permit through St. John's Water Management. You don't want to do that.
so as long as we don't put another big building there, we should be okay.
Yeah, you'd be fine. And everything we've proposed keeps the water going to its original place, so there's no permitting issues or anything like that.
I'm a very nice person. I just didn't see page numbers.
Don't worry, I have thick skin and
You know how this numbers people are. Commissioner Beck.
So I just wanted to bring up that last year, we did have 2 companies that did RFPs. So we're a little bit familiar with what, well, I mean, Commissioner Mazzotta's not, but
We've looked at
we heard, we saw their presentations. I mean, there's no page numbers on this, but at the end of the day, we have a real problem with that drainage that is affecting this building that we've spent all this time and money on, and I feel like the longer we wait, the worse it's gonna get. I say that because I always preach that we're specialists. Dr. Shu is a specialist. Dr. Qualls is a specialist. He's a specialist in what he does. Those other companies that bid before, they do everything. They do all construction. What do you do?
We're a utility contractor. We lay pipe, dig ditches, and that's it.
And that's it. So that's
Yeah.
his specialty, is what we need done. And so I totally understand maybe tabling this or whatever, but I think that the best person for the job is staying
Well,
there.
I just need our attorney to be able to review, because she hasn't been able to even review an RFP. She doesn't have a copy of it. And it's not
That's fine.
against.
I'd
you.
like to add too, though, we've been in this area, and our specialty is municipal contracts. We have a continuing contract with St. Johns County Utility Department. You can call anybody there, they know us. Anybody can dig ditches and lay pipe. Our niche is integrity and honesty.
Is there a time frame on how long your pricing holds for?
90 days.
So we table it until the February meeting, so
60
that.
That's fine.
So she has the time to review everything.
It says it'll remain valid for a period of not less than 60 days from the
So
due date of
60,
the
that
proposal.
gives,
Yeah, so through the chair, the other alternative here, because like your other two items, there's no contract here, so this is gonna have to come back to you anyway in February for the contract. So I'm totally fine. If you're comfortable with the information that you have, I will have to review the contract before it gets in front of you at your next meeting. So you can do similar to what you did with the other ones, is go ahead and move forward with the recommendation to enter into a contract with this bidder, subject to the district's final approval. And so from a legal perspective, again, I would be doing that review from today until the next time we're here again with the contract.
because the only sticky thing I still have, and Mr. Gruen, is Mr. Gruen? Is it Gruen?
Green, yep.
Is that the drainage bid that we got last year included expanding the pond, so it was about $400,000. So I'm trying to remember who was doing that part of the art. It was two bids in one.
One Hero
I
Construction.
remember it was one.
Yeah, it was Harold.
It was Harold and somebody else, so as long as you reassure me, because I need to be reassured that there's no need for an expansion on that pond, because last year they're saying it was about the same pricing, and they were saying that they needed to expand the pond.
What are they gonna?
Our understanding that we won't
If-
even need a
go-
permit.
I have to go pull it again, but it was in that bid, and that was where my wheels were turning to make sure that we're not spending this money, and then we're gonna find out that now we have a pond expansion in our hands again.
Yeah, well, it's my understanding that we're not even gonna need a permit from the St. Johns Water Management District at all.
Can you,
We're
is
just
is
gonna
it
need county
possible
permit
to
to
give
do
them
the
that
work, and
part
that's
of
it.
the,
Can we add that?
can we give them that part of the RFP lot, or
Yeah,
not?
I mean, I've got to look at the RFP, so there are rules and,
I just want to I'm just trying to make doubly sure that we're solving the problem.
Yeah.
Because the site plan is one thing, another thing is, what did the other vendors last year look at? And why did they suggest a pond expansion?
Last year was together with drainage and the storage building with the water, with
Yeah, but the-
then
but the
they have
drainage
to
is 400.
extension the pond, that's a.
But what I'm
first-
saying, that portion of the contract, that portion of the bid was still 400,000, which was the same pricing. So that's why anyway, I don't know if you can
Dr.
suggest
Ball?
something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, in that, it'd be good, like you said, maybe we can look back at that RFP in case the pond
been a year.
expansion was because of adding that building.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that is, we wanted to add a very large building, and that was
Mhm.
part of that RFP, so.
Yeah, if
Maybe
you
that
add,
could have
if you
been-
add square footage of roofing or impervious surfaces, you'll have to amend the pond and get a new permit with the St. John's, Water Management District,
So maybe that's.
St. John's
That
River
was
Water
part of
Management
I
District.
just want to be I
Because
just
you're
want to-
creating
It was a
more
fairly
runoff.
large building that we had on that
Yeah.
RFP.
Right.
But their pricing was.
With what we proposed is, there's no need for that. We're not adding any water. We're not diverting any water to where it's already going. We're just adding conveyances to making it easier to get to where it's already going. So no permit would be amended or
Yeah.
needed.
So
It's
through
our
the-
understanding.
Sorry. So through the chair to Commissioner Gleason, if there's additional information that you need or confirmations that you need, or any of the board members, I think you need to direct those to the director. And his staff should get you those answers and include them in the board book the next time we come here again with the proposed, contract document. And at such time, you can either accept the contract or reject all bids and go out to bid again. I'm just trying to think of a way to keep this
That-
moving
yeah,
along.
That would make sense. I'm okay with that.
Okay. So it would be a similar motion to the other motions where you're,
We're going to approve it and
correct,
come
and,
back with the contract.
exactly.
Next meeting.
Subject to also adding that the director will add all outstanding questions, answer all outstanding questions that we have.
Yeah, I mean, he should be taking those notes anyway, right? So much. You need to include that in the motion, but it's on the record, right, Dr. Shu, and
Okay.
you've heard their concerns, and you can direct your staff to make sure we get answers
Any
back.
questions for me?
No,
Any more questions for me?
no, and I apologize for
Oh, that's okay.
appearing for
That's
your
fine.
RFP.
That's fine.
All right, do we have a motion?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Ed Slavin, box 3084, edslavin.com. Well, hearkening back to 2006, we have now the same business manager we had then. The same guy who told us that a no-bid helicopter was sole source, and he was wrong. Don't roll your eyes. That happened. I was here. And once again, the same business manager hasn't given you a copy of a contract, hasn't even given you a copy of the RFP. There's nothing in your board books about this project, just one page. That's completely shallow. And it's insulting to the American people and the people of St. Johns County who pay your salaries. Appreciate we have a new attorney. I'm really delighted that she's here. And I would suggest that the policies of AMCD should be rewritten to provide that no matter will be presented to the board, including an RFP or a contract, without the attorney having a chance to weigh in on it. And that is absolutely vital. Hearkening back to 1981 to 83, I was the editor of a little weekly paper in East Tennessee, and we got a new county attorney elected. And under Tennessee law at the time, and he was 2.5 years out of law school, but he was phenomenal, David A. Stewart. And no contracts in Tennessee take effect until the county attorney signs them. And he would refuse to sign a contract if there was any question. And I know our new attorney will be the same way. But too often, we get a contract from a uniform vendor or some other vendor. It's a contract of adhesion, unconscionable, and we rubber stamp it. It's like the story that Earl Long told about Huey Long's puppet governor of Louisiana, Oscar K. Allen, otherwise known as O.K. Allen. And he said that a leaf blew into Governor Allen's office once, and he signed it. Our staff is like that. We need a new director, he needs to retire. We need a new business manager, he needs to retire. And we need a new CFO, who I noticed neither the CFO is here or the business manager. And apparently because of some contretemps and some disrespect for commissioners that was shown in the past, apparently at least one of those fellows has been told not to come to meetings anymore. Well, I'd like to have their knowledge base shared with the board. And when you get a board book that has as little information as you've gotten on these two contracts today, there's something wrong. The problem's not with the vendors, it's with the staff. And in terms of intellectual property, how can we protect the intellectual property of the Matthews Group if we're just given what they said to this contractor? It's not fair to him. And Justice Department looks at antitrust violations, and so does the state of Florida. I think we need to really find out why was there only one bid and why was the staff so lacking in rigor again? Thank you.
Can I respond?
I have a card.
Okay, she has a card.
Okay.
Tom Reynolds, 112 RE Cola, 32080. I want to thank Commissioner Gleason. It was very thorough. I do want to tell you folks a quick story. About 3 years ago, the city of St. Augustine Beach, they used some old plans in a water situation, and they went ahead and did that project with somebody new. And then all of a sudden, everybody's backyard on Mickler flooded. So the pipes were too small. So that is a really good caution about using somebody else's plans. And the only other thing was the company that seems like they put the mosquito district in this situation. Was there any recourse against them? Thank you very much.
I have a comment to Mr. Slavin. We do have the RFP, but Mr. Groom, with no insult to you and to your company, my concern still lies that we only have one bid for a fairly large project. And we usually require 3 bids to do anything, and that this board has now in the last at least 6 months, we've approved several with 1 bids, and that is not us doing the job for the people. And I'm very uncomfortable that I'm about to sign on something with, vote on something where I have open questions and we only have 1 bid, and I still, with the number of companies, specialists included in our part of the state, that we still only got 1 bid. And we're talking, folks, close to $400,000. And we've made mistakes in the past. We've made mistakes with that building. We've made, I think we need to exercise some caution, because this is not our money. I keep reminding us, this is not our money. And I understand the issues of the drainage, totally get it. But I'm very uncomfortable with the whole way that this is going.
Okay. Does anyone else have comments? Would someone like to make a motion? I'll make a motion that we approve it based on the contract coming to our attorney and for.
Right, so, through the chair, I think the motion would be to authorize the district to draft a contract based on the response, RFP terms, bring it back to the district, subject to approval. But I do want to note, I just want to flag this again, there's design and engineering services, right? That's a part of this scope. And I need to verify that CCNA doesn't apply. That's the engineering sort of design and the build requirements, because if that applies, then I need to make sure that we did the RFP in sync with those. And if we didn't, then we'll report back to you. I just don't want anybody to be like, well, the attorney never said we were gonna have to redo the whole thing. So that's an outstanding question that I've got to check on. But all of that will be vetted and checked on before it gets back to you at your February meeting, should you decide to move forward and approve this motion.
Okay. Does anyone want a second? Okay.
I'll second.
All right, so a second. All in favor?
I'm a no.
So that was 3.
I'm 3-2. I'm a no.
There's 2 noes, 3 yes. Aye. Would you like to do the treasurer's report, please?
Where are we?
We're in number 4.
We have unfinished business?
Yes.
Yeah.
One more. And we still have number 5.
A. McKinney, staff accountant. On the first page is a cash register balance as of December 31st, 2024. We have a fund total of $10 million, a little bit over $10 million, which is coming from our operating account, which is 1.4, a little bit over 1.4 million. And our investment, which is sweep account from the Wells Fargo, that's a 2.6, a little bit over 2.6 million. And coming from Florida Prime, that's a 6 million. And our ePay account, which is Bank of America, that's a 414,000, a little bit over 414,000. And the second part of that, that's where the money is coming from. The first line is 2.2, a little bit over 2.2 million. That's coming from the taxes. And then the interest from the Florida Prime is 23,000, a little bit over 23,000. The interest rate for that one is 4.7 for the December, 4.7%. And then Wells Fargo sweep account, that interest is $5,950, and then the interest is 4.36% for the December, and then the whole total for the I need one more. The education center selling is at $488, which is mentioned again on the bottom part of it. So that's about like 2.3 million bringing it for the December. For the education center part, the total income is $488. And then including the expenses for the education center plus the capital outlay is a little bit over $23,000. And then there's a balance of it on the
So
bottom.
okay, I'm gonna take out capital out of that, that's still money that you guys are spending
Yes.
to finish out the building.
Yes. So 10,000 is for the finish of the building.
So
Yes.
we're basically losing about 12,000 a month on that
Yes,
building.
basically, yes.
Operating costs.
That's not operating, that's income, that's net.
Yeah, all
net-
the maintenance,
Net
the
income,
supply,
net income
and
is
then
about, net income is a net
in-
loss of 12,000.
Inventory and everything,
Yeah,
yes.
we're losing money every month on it, okay. All right,
The rest of like detailed part of it and then the statement.
Does anyone have questions for us?
that was and we're still under the cap for the
Yes, ma'am.
Florida Prime.
Yes.
Okay.
It's about, when I calculated after I left the meeting,
Uh-huh.
we are about like 57% for the Florida Prime.
Do you guys mind adding that next to that, so that we know every month where we are percentage-wise?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I can do that. Yeah, let me put the note in there. So our limit is 70% maximum for the
Right.
Florida Prime, so we're staying good.
Okay. And where are we, lastly, are we done with the education center build?
Not yet.
Right. Where are we with the additional 50,000 that was approved by the board in November?
While I added in, I can get you a printout of it, how much
Yeah,
we
what-
have left.
Because we're not going to be asked for more money, are we?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions for us? No?
Yeah, thank you, I.
Thank you. All right. The item we moved from
Was
consent
number,
agenda for mosquito
old
maid.
businesses, yeah, mosquito maid.
Number 5.
I think you redlined that contract. Thank you so much for doing that. Right?
Okay, but that was like level 4, okay?
Is that-
I mean,
isn't that
it
the one
could have
we-
been more, and so through the chair, I asked the district to remove this item, so I'm glad you did, Commissioner Gleason, to remove it, because I felt a need to, sort of point out these changes. Since it went beyond what you had originally directed the district staff to do. So you have a red line, but so you've got to kind of piece this together. And if you are not comfortable as a district, I'll defer to the director and Dr. Qualls on the time sensitivity. But I had suggested, and this is attached to your clean copy, it's not attached to the red line copy, strengthening the insurance provision. So this is behind the human trafficking affidavit that I added, which is now required in Florida statutes in all of our contracts. But there's a litany of insurance coverage and indemnification requirements because they will be on our property for a year. So that's a pretty long time to have somebody that's not a part of the entity to be on our property. So I don't know, Dr. Qualls, if the contractor approved even those. They did? Okay, so then that's good. What you don't have in front of you is unless I'm missing it, Dr. Qualls, the Exhibit A, which is the scope of work. And I know you sent that to me today. Is that a part of what the district has in front of them?
So, no, that's the exploratory collaborative agreement that was reviewed last month. So Exhibit A is now, exploratory collaborative agreement has now been termed Exhibit A because of the memorandum of understanding that was asked by the board for the legal language pertaining to termination of the contract or the agreement.
Okay.
So do you have that?
So what I have is this exploratory collaboration agreement, but there's an Exhibit A that has work. Where is that Exhibit A?
That is the Exhibit A. So my understanding with what Mosquito Bank provided that I provided to you is that they changed the wording of the exploratory collaborative agreement to be Exhibit A. So I'll defer to you.
Yeah, that doesn't make, because if you look at page 1 of the contract, and this is just meant to be a template.
Right.
Right? So this isn't gonna get into like, there's an overview of what the parties' responsibilities are, but to the bottom of page 1, MMI shall provide the work to AMCD in accordance with the requirements as set forth in Exhibit A, which is incorporated herein. So what I was envisioning and what I thought was going to be attached was a more detailed scope of work to explain. So that isn't there. So the only scope of work in your mind, Dr. Qualls, is really 2A through 2A and B? And I apologize to be asking these questions on the floor.
That's fine. I'm going to approach
Yeah.
for recording purposes.
So the last board meeting, we proposed the exploratory collaborative agreement, which basically, there's not an outlined scope of work because they are coming in and doing their own processes within our building. So the idea is that this is a collaborative agreement, just like we do with many of our other visiting scientists, interns, they come in and provide a service, but acknowledging that this is for a long duration. So with that exploratory collaborative agreement, the idea is that we are establishing a partnership that could potentially lead to longer term collaboration where we would then have some sort of a business agreement. But as mentioned in the last meeting, because we're working with living organisms that are very sensitive to different environmental conditions, that the space may not work for them, right? So the idea is they're going to come in, utilize a couple of our insectaries to produce their biopesticide, which they would handle with all of the EPA regulations and FDEX regulations. But we would just be serving as a site for them to do that, while in turn, they would provide us with mosquitoes, if they're capable of rearing them in those conditions, that we would then be able to use at our district, right? The Wolbachia infected mosquitoes.
So to simplify that.
Yes.
And I know these are not the right words. They're basically renting space from us, and but the rental fee is not money being exchanged, but bugs. They're going to give us the mosquitoes.
Correct. If the space works for them.
If the space works for them.
And so when we ventured into this, it was more just like a collaboration for them to see if the space would work, and they would need time in order to establish that, right? Because even for us, we're working on establishing those workflows, protocols, and environmental condition thresholds for optimization of our male mosquitoes for SIT releases, right?
Okay.
So That's where the exploratory collaborative agreement. Now, I think what ended up happening is because Mosquito Mate, I provided them with the information that the board had asked for, right? And I asked them to then provide us with what legal language they would like to see in there and then work with our lawyer. So in December, this was sent to Ms. Myers. She came back with something that I sent to Mosquito Mate that they felt was, didn't really address kind of what the board directed. And so therefore, they took it to their lawyers to work out this memorandum of understanding, which we've had previously. So from 2019, for a couple of years, because we had Mosquito Mate, we did have a memorandum of understanding because we worked with them to do field releases of their Wolbachia infected mosquitoes, right, as they were going through the EPA process. And so that memorandum of understanding they took with their lawyer, and then I think what ended up happening, I think that here where they're saying Exhibit A, it should have been the ECA. But again, this is outside of my scope of understanding with my expertise.
Right.
So,
Through the chair. Is that it? I'm sorry, through the chair?
Because I think, yeah, go ahead.
Well, Dr. Qualls, you sent me an Exhibit A, it's called a work plan. So I think what you sent me in an email when I asked for the Exhibit A is the Exhibit A that's just not here. So my only concern is, in your email, you said that the board approved the Exhibit A. I guess what I'm used to seeing is a complete contract with all exhibits attached in one document so that you know what you're actually approving.
Right.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'd like to see, the state of the contracts. But if in the last meeting, you've already approved this Exhibit A, I just received it
We
today.
said subject to the legal language in the last meeting.
The legal language
We
in this
approved it
agreement.
with subject to legal, whatever. There was definitely different clauses missing.
Got it. So you're fine to move forward because again, the first part you approved at the last meeting, which is the Exhibit A that I'm actually inquiring about now and you sent to me. So that was approved at the last meeting in December. Now we're back to the MOU. And you've already approved that, and you had a council that looked at that, so there's no need for me to look at that. I'm just telling you I haven't looked at it.
Amy looked at it.
Correct. And I'm fine to share it. I apologize. And again, this was very last minute, right? We had the holiday break, we got the turnaround from Mosquito Mate with their lawyers. And then I put Ms. Hodges on the spot and asked her to review this really quickly. And I was very apologetic about that. So I apologize for, this is not contrary to what has been presented today. This is not how staff normally works. And so I do apologize on that. But I'm at the discretion of the board and our lawyer, however you guys want to move forward.
So what we're approving today is your red line contract? That's what I like, but I'm not sure what I'm approving at this point.
Yeah, so that's what I suggested, but the only missing piece that I didn't have is the Exhibit A, which was a critical piece
Okay, right.
that you had already approved in December. So if you're comfortable as a board, you had counsel, you looked at it, you were fine with that Exhibit A. Now the only thing that we have is this contract. And so in the contract, the red line that you see, I'm really just adding, standard, sort of flushing out, some of this language. Some of these are requirements, the sovereign immunity, you're immune as a governmental entity. And so really my goal, and this is what we'll work on moving forward, is we're never giving an indemnity. But if we do give an indemnity, that's gonna need to always be limited by 768. And then there's some statutory requirements now that you see. And ultimately, the liability is while they're on our property. So your insurance and your indemnification will cover you on that. So I am very happy. There could have been more edits, but on something like this, why spend all that time? I feel this is sufficient and decent to protect the district in this year. I just can't say one way or the other whether or not this matches up with the Exhibit A that you approved,
Okay, so
back in
can you give
December.
her, because what I'm thinking the Exhibit A in my head is the MOU that you reviewed in December.
The exploratory collaborative agreement, yeah.
If that's what we're calling Exhibit A now, I think we're good because we did vote on that.
Okay.
We voted to
So-
approve that.
Thank you. All right, so that's where I was confused, because you said that this is the exploratory collaborative agreement, correct? That's what it's
Which one?
labeled on top.
So this is This is the memorandum of understanding that ties into Exhibit A, which would be the exploratory
Okay, and that's
collaborative
where I was
agreement.
confused, because then I was like, okay, and they renamed it Exhibit A, and then on page 4 at the bottom in section F, it says Agreement and Exhibit A, which would indicate that they're two separate entities.
Correct, they are. This
Yeah.
was the document that was provided to us by Mosquito Mate.
Right.
And I did not make any changes to it. I directly handed it off. But my understanding in discussion with
Yeah.
our contractor, Mosquito Mate, is that their Exhibit A is the exploratory collaborative agreement. However,
Okay.
if the board and our legal counsel would like, I can confirm with them and we can bring it back to the board
Does it make a
next
difference?
month.
Well,
I-
and then the second part was on page 11, it literally says Exhibit A at the top, and then work, and then it's
Right.
blank, like no work. And then the very next page is Exhibit B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
where my questions and concerns were. So I don't know if I could, if you're comfortable with this, then then
I mean, to be honest, I'm not comfortable with this because the Exhibit A, I haven't looked at. And so I'm relying on somebody else that's looked at that work. And for all I know, it conflicts with what I've drafted in this agreement.
Right,
So my
that's my
preference
point.
would probably be to give me the time to look at the Exhibit A that if it doesn't hurt you from an operational standpoint.
It won't hurt us from an operational standpoint. I'm not sure if Mosquito Mate will be impacted, because they do have a timeline because they have to register our site as an EPA production site. And so for them to do that, they would want something solidified. But I do have a call with them tomorrow. So, we can flesh some of these out. Maybe Ms. Hodges, if you're available for that call tomorrow, we can get some clarification. This is honestly outside of my expertise when it comes to the legal language here, and I want to make sure that we're doing right by the board and our staff. So I'm okay with that.
I'm deferring to you because if you're not comfortable with it, because you don't know if your language conflicts, I don't feel comfortable, so.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my preference.
I will just say that Mosquito Mate's lawyers did review this and provided it to us. So it has been just not our own legal counsel until now. So thank you.
Right, Janet, I think Dr. Qualls, the only open-ended item is the Exhibit A Exploratory Collaborative Agreement Work Plan that the board approved, but I haven't laid legal eyes on.
Okay.
Is that what the plan is? We're going to table it till next month?
Yeah, next month.
Yes, that would be my legal preference.
Suggestion? Yeah, I knew the Mosquito Mate shopping other district, other program, try to find someone really accepted produce called biopesticides, like a manufacturing project. So hopefully we are not lose the business. Hopefully have some kind of condition, under condition, prove the MOU and provide for something.
I mean, you did review and approve the
Is there-
exploratory.
Yeah, but I haven't reviewed that against what she wrote, so if her contract doesn't,
Is there any way, so it doesn't go a month and we don't lose, right?
Right.
If you can review this after
Yes.
the board gives power to the attorney,
That's
upon her review and approval, it's fine.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be great.
let her approval.
Yeah.
okay, I'm okay
I
with
think
it.
that's and I was thinking about that. So look at you, you're the lawyer today. That was going to be exactly my recommendation, is that you could approve this contract and just give me that flexibility to be able to make it, anything material and substantial that I'm recommending you take out. We'd have to come back to you in February. But if I'm just making technical amendments and changes of that nature to make it in sync with what I've drafted here today, I think that's totally proper and appropriate for you to do to keep the timeline.
And just to add, Mosquito Mate is also very willing to work with us on this as well. So again, if we want to have a call, I mean, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, because I know that, I appreciate your time and know that you may not have availability, but certainly we can work with them
Yeah.
to set up a time to have a call.
Sounds good. So you need a motion.
Commissioner Becker.
I just wanted to note that we've worked with Mosquito Mate for a really long time. We've had past commissioners even go up to their plant in Kentucky, right?
Yes.
Commissioner Grubin. they do really excellent work, and the kind of stuff that we've been able to do with them, which is we're working on releasing these mosquitoes. These mosquitoes that we want to release have to be the best mosquito that's out there, because mosquitoes are only mating one time. So this took years of trial and error, and I know because I was running for office at that time. It was in 2018. And I was going to these areas that they were testing in, and I didn't know that's where they were testing in. And the residents were saying, we have so many mosquitoes, we have so many mosquitoes. And I was like, oh man, this is crazy, we have to do something. Yeah, I was new, I didn't know anything about it. And I was upset that how many mosquitoes, because one area was in West King and the other area was in a very affluent part. And I was upset about that because I thought it was being done on purpose. Well, my first meeting, I won my election, and my first meeting, we had the doctor come up here and talk about the 1 million a week mosquitoes they were releasing in those areas, but they were all males. He goes, did any of them bite you? And I said,
Come to think of it.
no. You know, so we have a really good working relationship.
There's like a
with
joke in
them.
there
But,
somewhere.
I mean, it was, because but I'm just saying, like,
But they are
to
also.
say that mosquito mate is a very well-respected.
That's good to know. I'm not questioning their work ethic.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I don't.
And it could potentially.
For everyone to know what they
Okay.
do, and not everyone that's in this room knows what they do, and
The only
why we're
male
working
on
with
the
them.
board.
And it very easily could turn into something business-like in the future, but I think it is important for us to establish that we have a really solid foundation to move forward in. So I think, we're doing the right thing, and so I like what Commissioner Mazzato proposed. And so hopefully if that can be made into motion.
Your first meeting.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement with Mosquito Mate contingent on the updates that Ms. Hodges is gonna make. And our agreement will be defunct if there's something major in there, and then it will be brought back to the board next month.
We still have to bring it back to sign it, right? To execute it.
No,
Who's gonna
so
execute? Who executes?
That would be, let me look at your.
Who's gonna ask the question?
Forward
gonna have to
policy.
So we have the signature of the comptroller and then the director as well as Mosquito Mate. So and again, I wasn't sure about who the signature of the comptroller would be on this document.
Is there, maybe it should be changed to your CFO. I mean, that's an internal, we can govern our signature block,
Okay.
right, with the appropriate people. And I think there's not any money being encumbered here. So we can talk about that
Yeah.
internally. I think that's a technical.
wanted to make sure that,
Yeah.
Did the board update the policy where the director can sign
Yes.
memorandums of
For the
understanding?
science, For confidential and science, not for business.
Not for business,
Yeah.
not business agreements, I don't think.
All right. So, we have a motion?
I think it was already made.
Yeah.
Right, I'll second. Oh, public comment.
Was there a second to the motion?
I seconded.
You did, okay.
Yeah.
Good work. On Ed Slavin, box 3084, edslavin.com. Calling your attention to agreement records retention, which is paragraph 13 on page 6 of 12. We should cite to Florida statute 119.0701 there. The language that Mosquito Mate proposes there is void for vagueness, and it looks like it's written for federal contracts. But under Florida statute 119.0701, please pay attention. Under Florida statute 119.0701, we own their records. If a government contractor does work for the state of Florida or a governmental entity in the state of Florida, we own their records, and we need to make that really clear. And if you go to 119.0701, there's language there that's mandatory for these contracts. They have to put in there. So I'm not satisfied with it. Also, why are we calling a memorandum of understanding? It's a contract. Memoranda of understandings are between government agencies, the sheriff's department or the health department, whoever has an agreement with another government agency. It's called an MOU. This is not an MOU. This is a contract. Let's call it a contract. That's what it is. Also, I'm really rather annoyed. Confidential business information, those words appear on every single page. Please strike that. It's not confidential. This is a public record. It's a government contract, and it's covered by Florida Statute 119.0701. And again, the people of the state of Florida adopted Article 1, Section 24 of our Florida Constitution, which is our Sunshine and Open Records Law. 83% of the people in Florida voted for that back in 1992. 83%. That's 3.8 million voters. And when I see AMCD wanting to agree with a contractor on vague records retention requirements, no, it's not records retention. They're our records. We own them. Okay, so if we could make that change, and it's a cardinal change, I mean, it modifies the agreement to making it legal. Because without citing to 119.0701, I don't think this is a legal contract. And I would ask the board to ask learned counsel to give you all an opinion letter on that, a written letter, before your next meeting. But no way. Mosquito Mate does not get to call stuff that they're doing with a government agency confidential business information. It's just not right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, Ed.
So we need to take a vote.
He's on page 6 of 12, under
Okay,
agreement,
6 of
agreement record retention, she was asking. Page 6 of 12.
Yeah, so through the chair, I mean, in that, I'm legal and fine with it because in that same paragraph it specifically, and this is not unusual, confidential information to the extent permitted by Florida law, including Florida Public Records Law. So there's actually
So
a
it-
carve-out in that same paragraph, but also, I added the language that explicitly loops in, these governmental requirements like 286 and 119. That's on page 8.
So if it conflicts with Florida law, then Florida law.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
can't claim, he's correct, you can't claim
Yeah.
confidentiality. Now, there are exemption and confidentiality provisions in public records that could apply, but this language actually would prevent it from being such an overreaching provision that everything they claim is confidential. But as I'm going through and looking at this agreement, that would be an example of something that I would not see that as a material change, because I would just be conforming it to
Florida.
the law, right?
Florida law.
So that's something that I can certainly look at and strengthen.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Second, I will need a final vote.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, new business.
New
Ooh,
business. Mr.
7:18.
Yes.
Your new commissioner's statement.
All right.
You're up.
All right, well, I just want to thank God first and foremost for giving me the opportunity to even be sitting here today. So I want to thank Dr. Rudy Hsu for being a fantastic director and welcoming me in, and everybody on the board as well, and everybody who voted for me. I'm looking forward to it. It's a very good opportunity. It's a little bit stressful, looks like, maybe, but no, I'm going to make the best of it, and I appreciate having this opportunity. I'm very thankful and very grateful to everybody that had anything to do with it. And I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can, and hope everybody is okay with that. So thank you guys again. Thanks for coming out today and staying for this long meeting. And yeah, I hope you guys have a beautiful night. God bless everybody. Yeah, thanks.
Ms. Hodge?
Okay, so now we will move into the officer election. So as a district, you're required to have a chair, a vice chairperson, and a secretary/treasurer. The way this will work is I'll just take over the meeting until you actually elect a new chair that serves for the term. Once we do that, whoever the chair is more than happy, so that I don't take away their thunder, elect the vice chair and the secretary and the treasurer. But I do just want to point out, in your commissioner handbook, there are, just to remind you of the chair's, responsibilities, as you think about which one of you may want to continue to serve as chair or anybody else that could be nominated as chair. But the chairperson, of course, presides at all of the board meetings and is the spokesperson for the board. He or she executes the documents on behalf of the board and signs contracts, resolution, and reports to various agencies. The chair has the same duties and responsibilities as any other commissioner, so your voting rights are the same, you're equal, but there is a little bit more work that you do by presiding over each of the meetings. And ideally, with the chair, you really want to exercise that chairmanship in a very neutral and impartial way. You want to, sort of facilitate discussion, make sure all viewpoints are being heard. You don't want to be partial in any way, and really sort of move the meeting along so that it's going about very efficiently for all, parties involved. The other thing I want to point out is that the chair is working very closely with the director, for example, in putting together the agenda. So that's a little bit more work than a normal member would have to do. And the vice chair is stepping in whenever the chair is not available. There is, in order to serve in an officer position, you must have been with the district for, I believe it's 1 year. So I know you were just ready to dive in there, Commissioner.
Yes.
But you can't yet. And so with that, we can do this so many ways, but depending on how many nominations we get for chair, we could take a vote on each name, and essentially the first name that gets 3 votes would be, in fact, that officer. We could do a roll call where you're just kind of stating on the record which one you're voting for, and then we tally those up. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. So maybe at this point, we should ascertain who, if there are any nominations for chair, and you can certainly self-nominate. That's also an option.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Becker for chair.
Are there any more?
I'd like to self-nominate.
Okay. So any more nominations? All right. So we can take a vote, or if someone wants, so we have 2 nominations on the floor, Commissioner Becker, Commissioner Gleason. One of you can make a motion to move one of those 2 nominees, and either there's going to be 3 votes or there are going to be 5 votes, but you just need enough, and that would determine who would be the chair. That's one way to do it. Or we could do a roll call, and I could just ask, and you could state on the record who you want to vote for. And so maybe that's the easiest way to do it. Okay. So.
Do I have to vote?
What's that? Yes, you do have to vote, unless you have a conflict, and you don't have any conflicts because you're too new. You can't have any conflicts yet. Okay, so we're just going to go down the line and just state on the record who you would vote for. And I'm going to ask Ms. Keating to please help me keep tally, because lawyers do not make good mathematicians. So Commissioner LeBlanc.
All right. Commissioner Becker.
Commissioner Mazzato.
How are you? Commissioner Gleason.
Commissioner.
I know she's not going to win anyway, so.
Commissioner
I
Gardner.
know it's a done deal.
Commissioner Becker.
Commissioner Gleason.
And Commissioner Becker.
Commissioner Becker?
Congratulations. But it was fun. It was fun.
Yes, that's right. So that's 3-2, 3 in favor of Commissioner Becker. So Commissioner Becker, you are our new chair.
Congratulations.
Are you comfortable?
You have my sympathy.
Would you like to say anything, Commissioner Becker?
I would, actually. First, thank you very much for the nomination. This is my 6th year and I take this district very seriously. I'm already gonna cry. I'm such a crier.
Don't do that.
Anyways, the point is, you know, we've got a lot of issues happening at this district. And our job is, we are public servants, to be here for the public, to be here for everyone that works for this district. And I think that this is a great opportunity to kind of start over. We have a brand new commissioner. We can start going over all of our policies, make sure that we're following all the things, because I think there's a lot of stuff that gets followed if it feels like it, maybe it doesn't, and that kind of stuff we really need to clean up so everyone can be so proud to be here, because we all wanted to be elected to do a good job on this board, and I think all of us want to do that, and we want to leave a legacy that we can all be proud of along with all the employees. So I plan to be very neutral, and I plan to just keep things on track and get us going, and I appreciate the confidence. And I'd like to nominate Commissioner Gleason for vice chair again.
For a year.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Gardner for vice chair.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Gleason for vice chair. Well,
There's a
Right.
nomination for Gardner. Now
oh,
we
I
Yeah,
thought that,
there's
I thought that
already-
was the vote.
you're
Now we
right.
have to
I thought
vote.
there was
No,
one
no,
nomination,
no.
right?
The-
And then you
the-
vote.
shh. Well, Gail got one, I got one.
Oh,
So
who
now-
voted for, you voted for you?
No,
I
Commissioner
missed
LeBlanc.
something. Okay, so we have two.
Yes, so you already
Okay,
have
so
two.
now it's
Here
to
we
me
go
again.
again, right?
Unless you
Again.
want a third one.
Right.
Unless you want a
So
third
through
one.
the chair, if you want to,
Okay.
take over, you just need to
Thank
go
you.
through each commissioner on the record, whether or not they prefer Commissioner Gleason or Commissioner Gardner to be the vice chair.
Okay, so we have on the table for the office of vice chair, we'll start with Commissioner LeBlanc,
Commissioner Gardner?
Now to,
Commissioner Mazzotto,
Good? Commissioner Gleason.
Commissioner Gleason.
Commissioner Garden.
Commissioner Gleason.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Myself,
Congratulations.
thank you.
We have one more seat left, and this is for our secretary. Do we have any nominations for secretary?
Can I clarify one rule? For this, you can nominate, he can run for this position. Because that's not restricted to 1 year. It's only the chair.
Give me just a second.
It's only the chair per policy.
Yeah, I think. Any commissioner nominated or otherwise considered by the board for election to serve as board chair must first have completed at least 1 year of service as commissioner for the
That's
Anastasia Mosquito Control District prior to assuming the position of board chair.
That's
In the unlikely event no sitting commissioner here has at least 1 year, the policy will be waived, but it doesn't say anything about.
Correct, so you're right. So you
So-
could absolutely dive right in there on secretary /
Very
treasurer.
tempting.
Yes, sounds good.
Very tempting.
Okay, so we have a motion or a
nomination.
nomination for Mr. Mazzotto. Do we have
Yes.
any more nominations?
I'd like to nominate Gina LeBlanc, Commissioner LeBlanc.
Okay.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Gardner.
So we have 3. So is everybody gonna get a majority?
I know.
Okay, so now we have
Okay,
3
so,
runners. You have 3 to choose from.
Voted?
So,
Who are you gonna start with?
okay.
Commissioner LeBlanc.
So Commissioner LeBlanc, who would you like to vote for?
Gardner.
Okay. Commissioner Mazzotto?
Commissioner LeBlanc.
Commissioner Gardner, who do you vote for?
Commissioner Gardner?
Commissioner Mazzotto.
Commissioner Gleason?
Commissioner Mazzata.
Thank you.
And I'll also vote for Commissioner Mazzotto. Welcome to the team.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to appreciate our elected chair for the last 2 years, Commissioner Gail Gardner.
What are you appreciating her with?
We're appreciating her with a little award.
There's gonna be a
A
mosquito.
Wilmer Award.
A plaque, oh my God. Thank you. That's very sweet.
So, in recognition from the board, in recognition of your hard work, dedication, and commitment to the board, employees, and the mission and goals of AMCD in serving as the chairperson in 2024 and 2023. And we thank you very much for your service and your continued service.
Congratulations.
Hang that above your bed.
Yeah, don't let it hit you.
Okay, yeah, no, maybe not above the bed.
It's been a privilege, and I'm thrilled to see Commissioner Becker take over.
Okay, so now we're going to go to our new attorney, Ms. Hodges, who's going to give us a 10-minute or so review on the Sunshine Law. And before we do that, we've got one public comment. Mr. Reynolds, would you like to make your comment now?
Tom Reynolds, 112 RE Cola, 32080. My comment is on the Sunshine Law, and then I'll have a comment on number 5. Comment on the Sunshine Law is, don't forget, you can't talk about business, but you can talk. And that's where a lot of people, they don't quite understand it. You know, you have several capacities. Right now, you have an elected official capacity. And of course, you can't call another elected official and say, hey, you know, we got this, because that doesn't work. But in reality, the Sunshine Law, don't ever worry about it. It'll never be enforced. It won't be. R.J. Larissa is the most useless individual. Jeremiah Blocker and Henry Dean, they broke the Sunshine Law. Also, Blocker, Jeremiah Blocker, if any of you know him, he's the king of breaking the Sunshine Law. In fact, he broke the Sunshine Law in the wrongful firing of Michael Wanchek, and the state attorney wouldn't do a thing. When Jeremiah Blocker was a county commissioner and he spoke to the elected clerk of courts at the time, and they were talking about bringing the clerk of courts over to be the county administrator. Now, I like Hunter Conrad. He's a good guy. They broke the law. That was county business. Jeremiah Blocker and Henry Dean had no respect for the law at all. So if you do respect the law, that's a good thing. But once again, don't ever worry about the state attorney. He will never do a thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
I got another one.
Public comment?
I don't have a card.
There's a card.
I'm saying my card. I'm looking
I don't
at
have a
her.
card.
I'm looking at her. I'm looking at her.
I have boo-hoo, honey.
I'm looking at the wrong person for the card.
Okay, Mr. Slavin.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Ed Slavin, Bucks, 3084, edslavin.com. I sent a letter to the State Attorney General and FDLE, and I've requested that there be a criminal, civil, or an administrative investigation of AMCD for violating the Sunshine Law. And also I requested that the State Attorney General and FDLE assist us with a forensic audit. Been waiting for too long for records requests that I made last year. Dr. Shu has been disrespectful. The staff has been disrespectful. They don't provide any records. And I've asked the board members time and time again to help. And they haven't. They haven't done enough. So you'll be hearing from the State Attorney General and the FDLE. I spoke to FDLE yesterday. It's sad that such an intelligent group would fail to manage their staff. Dr. Shu needs to retire.
We're supposed to not be
Business manager-
talking about personal
Please don't interrupt.
things. You are out of order.
No, I'm
If
not
you
out of order,
Start
ma'am.
talking bad about people. Just keep it
Ma'am,
simple.
you didn't read the case that I cited to you earlier, did you? The Moms for Liberty case, Learned Counsel will instruct you on it, but you are being overbearing and you're violating our rights once again. This district has a lot to be ashamed about, going back to 2006 when they bought a no-bid helicopter without competitive bidding. And the staff, including the gentleman who is now your business manager, told this board that that no-bid helicopter was somehow sole source. It wasn't sole source. Let's stop living in fantasy land, folks. We're wasting money. Mosquito control probably spends twice as much a year that they should be spending. We've got a 36% cost overrun on the Mosquito Museum. And you voted in December to spend another $50,000 and mocked and trivialized people like Commissioner Gleason, who wanted to stick with the program and not waste money. It's our money. My mother was a purchasing agent for Camden County College in Blackwood, New Jersey, and she helped me understand when I was a little boy how government contracting worked. She'd say, son, this is an invoice. Son, this is an RFP. And it's alarming that after all these years, mosquito control is still wasting money, spending money like it's going out of style. And I would look forward to the new attorney helping get my records requests from last year responded to properly. And other than Commissioner Gleason, I don't think the rest of y'all really, and the new guy, obviously, I think he cares, but the other commissioners, it's like you didn't care. I wrote y'all, I spoke to y'all, and it's like, is that the best you can do? Really? No, we're not satisfied. Those records requests, somebody didn't want me to have that information. Your CFO and your business manager and Dr. Shu, all three need to retire. It's our money. Stop wasting it. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Mr. Slavin. Okay, Ms. Hodges?
Okay. Let's see. I don't know what I'm doing.
How am I?
No.
Oh, turn around.
Okay, perfect. Okay, this is good. All right, so I am going to try to do this in 10 minutes. I could really talk about this topic for a whole hour, more than an hour. We could do a whole day on sunshine law. Do I turn the slide myself? Did I? Oh,
Yeah, that's your clicker.
okay. How am I? Oh,
Yeah,
help
and I
out.
think you have to. Oh, goodness.
Well, it's 45 degrees.
You might know how to work that better.
Just in case anyone was wondering.
There we go. So it's gonna be down forward.
I gotta aim it at school.
Well, so it's on.
That clicker is like the bane of our existence. Every presentation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's on.
Is there a way for me to click it
Let
from
him know
here?
that it's on and it's not.
It's on and it's not working.
Can I click it from here? No.
If you can just ask Rick to advance it, so if you can ask
Okay.
him to advance your
He can
slide,
hear
he
me?
should, yes.
Okay, Rick? Can he hear me? Rick? Can you advance the first slide?
No way, he's wrong.
Okay. Okay, so, what you should know about the Sunshine Law is that Florida was the first state to actually enact a Sunshine Law. And of all the states, most states now have some version of Sunshine Law and Public Records Law.
Florida is probably the most stringent of most states, as we should be, since we were the very first. So I always like to start Sunshine Law presentations with just a little bit of history, because I've sort of learned that, you know, when you tell people the why behind the what tends to stick a little bit better. So the next slide, Rick. Okay. So why do we have Sunshine Law? Because quite frankly, back in 1967, you had what we know was a lot of backroom politics. And what I mean by that is politics that's happening in the back room. People are talking in the dark. They're striking deals. The public's coming to meetings, and everything's all figured out. There's no debate. There's no talking. And what came along with that was a lot of corruption. So in 1967, Florida did something that was very bold. It enacted the first Sunshine Law. So next slide, Rick. Love this system. So in 1967, we saw the first iteration of Florida Sunshine Law in Section 286.011 Florida statutes. And then in the Constitution, this right came later, and it's now in our Florida Constitution. So it's a big deal. It was so important to Floridians that we said it has to be a constitutional right for the state of Florida. And that occurred in 1992. Next slide. So just to quickly go over the language is articulated in Section 286.011 Florida statutes, public meetings and records, and it reads, all meetings of any board or commission of any county, municipal corporation, including meetings with or attended by any person elected to such a board. So Commissioner Mazzato, even before you were sworn in today, you still were bound by Sunshine Law pursuant to this language. And it states, but who has not yet taken office, at which official acts are to be taken are declared to be public meetings open to the public at all times. The board or commission must provide reasonable notice of all such meetings. The minutes of a meeting shall be promptly recorded, and such records shall be open to the public. So that's exactly what the law says. And the next slide. So then in our Florida Constitution, we have similar language, all meetings of any collegial public body of the executive branch of state government or any collegial public body of a county, municipality, school district, or special district, that would be, you know, what we are, at which official acts are to be taken or at which public business of such body is to be transacted or discussed, shall be open and noticed to the public. So that's a really strong right to have embedded in our Florida Constitution, and it's a really good thing because it's trying to bring what was previously in the dark into the light. Next slide. I need him to click. Click, 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 click. Wait, no, don't tell him to go back. Too many clicks.
Unclick.
So in a nutshell, public meeting is meeting, conversation, discussion with two or more council or board members of the same entity. And that dialogue is very important. So we'll get into like the one-way statements and the one-way communication that members can have with other members, but it's really that dialogue. You send something out and somebody responds, boom, you have a Sunshine Law violation. And it pertains to a matter that is likely or foreseeable to be considered by that entity. So just 2 points. I really like the gentleman's point about when I try to give these presentations, I try not to scare public officials. Like, oh my goodness, we're going to have to notice a meeting. It's very interesting, the different counties. Over, for example, in Jacksonville, those council members meet all the time. They have one-on-one notice meetings. They notice the meetings and maybe one person shows up, but so 2 takeaways. Yes, it's only when you're talking about matters that's going to come before your board, and that's foreseeable. So it's not about, is it something that's on the agenda? Because a lot of people tend to think that way. Well, this isn't on the agenda, therefore I can talk about it. It's a very conservative, if it comes in the realm of anything that could possibly ever come before this board, I will tell you that that's something that should be noticed. But again, if you're not talking about business, you can talk about football, you can talk about your kids, you can talk about that all day long. You are not required to have a notice meeting. But I do want you to be cognizant of the perception, because if you see Commissioner Gleaser and Commissioner Becker, at Ruth Chris, even though you're talking about your kids, yeah, even though you're talking about your children, people are going to assume rightfully that you're talking about board business. So just be conscious of that perception. But I don't want to scare you. If you do want to have a conversation, that's easy. You just notice that meeting, you get with staff does the notice, staff takes the minutes, and you can have that sort of discourse with your colleague. Because sometimes you come to meetings and you wish you had the benefit of having a discussion beforehand. And it's totally, okay to do that so long as you meet these statutory requirements. So next slide. So the law requires that the meetings be open and accessible. So that means you can't meet at a restaurant, for example. There's actually case law out there that talks about the chilling effect, and sometimes there are members of the public that, they may not be able to afford to go into the restaurant. So if you're having this meeting, it's got to be a place like this that's open, that's accessible, that's from a disabled standpoint. A reasonable advance notice of the meeting. So, we'll get into this, I hope, at some point with the workshop, but you have other layers of laws that are going to apply here that, talk about, what's reasonable notice. But I like to just remind, sort of the collegial public bodies that the public's no different from your own calendars. And if I just tomorrow put something on your calendar and said, hey, let's meet up at 2 p.m. and I didn't tell you, that's probably going to be a challenge for you. That's the sort of thing that I think, we should think about in terms of, what's that reasonable advance notice that we're giving to the public with our meetings. And then the written minutes, there's no definitive, how I've seen people take minutes that are verbatim. You can hire a court reporter to take your minutes. And then I've seen people that just simply track, or entities that track the agenda, and they at least capture the motions, and you're actually required to do that. You have actually prescribed rules in your commissioner handbook that tells you a little bit more guidance on how to take those minutes. Yes?
Could we use an AI program to record it and write it down? There's a lot of programs that'll write down all the stuff and who said them in the meetings. Or is that...
Yeah, the issue with
it's AI, it's not a person.
Well, I think the issue with AI is always two things. You've got to disclose, that you're using it, and then you're always going to need a human being to actually check it.
Yeah.
Because AI might spit out a lot of things, but somebody's got to check it to literally make sure that, and if it's not AI, there are other technological tools, right, these days that help with dictating notes and things like that, but you still need that human being because you guys are going to want to make sure that the minutes are accurate. Mm-hmm. And then the last point here is public participation. This is actually something new that's come about, even though most government entities always had a public comment section. They would typically have it at the end of the meeting, but then in 2011, the Florida legislature strengthened the rights of the public and said, no, the public's got to have a right to comment on items that you're actually considering. And, that when they get that opportunity to comment, there are some entities that are so nicely oiled and organized that you could actually give them the comment time the meeting before, not necessarily the meeting that you're actually taking the action. Next slide. Okay,
so meaning that as long as we know what's coming up in the next meeting.
You gotta be. Yeah.
So that's when, I think you and I spoke about potentially calendarizing certain topics.
Yes, right.
So that we know, and this month we're always going to talk about this.
Exactly, right. But the way that you're currently operating, you couldn't do that, right? Because you get the agenda, 5 days or 3 days before, so there's no, you'll have to open up these items for public comment. The other alternative, though, your rules require you to open it up per item. You could just have one section. Mm-hmm. That's not uncommon, where members of the public come in one section of the agenda and they simply address any and all items, non-agenda items as well as agenda items in that same section. But that section's usually like an hour that you're allotting to the public to have that, public participation. So what meetings are applicable? These are your district board meetings, not just regular meetings, subcommittee meetings. Keep clicking there.
Okay, so subcommittees. Good question.
Standing committees.
We have committees. I don't think those are ever noticed. No, they're not.
Okay, then let's make sure.
So we need to have we need a
So,
rule.
well, so that's something, so let me make a note, because your committees are structured a little bit different, right? It's just the one
Chair,
the one commissioner. So it's really what I was told, that's more of a staff meeting. And you're just the one commissioner that's going. What I'm talking about is a true subset of your board. If
like
three
there's
of you.
there's more than one commissioner in the meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. That's when you need to notice that meeting, when there's more than one commissioner. But I think I was advised that these committees that you have, you generally only appoint one commissioner, and then the rest of them are basically staff that's attending that meeting, and that there are no recommendations that are being made. Now, we can talk, and I don't want to get into the details, but you actually can have a committee of one. If you delegate to one commissioner the ability to come back and weed things out or make recommendations, that one commissioner could be subject to sunshine. So I'll make a note to sort of work with the director to get a little bit more detail on how you're
I would like for you to look at that, because I think also I don't know about education, but our committees technically only meet once a year, and to me, that's a waste, because that's a whole calendar year that, like finance, I'm going to be over finance. There's going to be stuff that comes up. I don't want to just be sitting in one meeting once a year.
Right.
So I think at minimum, this should be quarterly, if we're really going to do our job of oversight.
Yeah,
if that's what we're
easy
doing.
change. Yeah, that's an easy change that you could make in your policies. I think there's another click. Is that true? Is there another click? Yeah. So the last two bullets here.
Avoid them.
Casual gatherings, chance encounters. So those first two, you're clearly in the zone of a meeting. So you're not going to mistake that I'm participating in something that should be noticed, because it's so obvious. We're in a meeting like now. But the casual gatherings, you bump into each other somewhere at the fair for, the county. Chance encounters. If you begin to talk about things that can foreseeably come before your board, then that's when you don't need to have those conversations, because with the chance encounter, you will not be able to take minutes. You will not be able to notice. So the council is just do not have a discussion. And that's when the council is govern yourselves accordingly. You've been trained properly, so you know how to behave yourselves. Next slide. Okay, so who can you meet with? And there's a lot of clicks, so just tell them keep clicking, but don't click to the next slide. Yeah. So who can you meet privately with? You and a member of another body, because the issue is the same entity. So it's only the 5 of you that we're concerned about having this sunshine law violation. Save the liaison example, and I'll talk about that once I run through these. But you and a staff member, so that's your director. You actually have a rule where you cannot. There's some limitations on you just being able to go talk to staff here. That's just your own internal governance rules. But you can certainly meet, with the director. He's not a member of your board. I'm not a member of your board, your attorney. You can talk to me. Groups of citizens, all these folks that are troopers to stay here for the remainder of this meeting. And county commissioners, so St. Johns County, but this goes to the state level agencies as well. You can meet with those types of folks. So what about letters to other commissioners? Click, click, click. Tell him to keep clicking until we're 4 clicks. Can he hear me? Oh, okay, sorry, Rick. Sorry about that. So here's what I want to tell you. And I'll use the example that we had this week, where Commissioner Gleason sends out and she put on the communication, one-way communication. Very good idea. We're going to want you to always do that. And my other suggestion would be if you're doing this type of position statement, where the whole purpose of the communication is to just state your position. It should not be, as you'll see in these last 2 bullets, to invite a response. So in your statement, there should not be any questions there. There should only be statements ending with, periods. It should not be a type of statement where you're trying to engage in dialogue. It's really, to be honest, discouraged. And it's one of those types of things that if you want to do something like this, I would recommend you come talk to me so that I can make sure that it's in proper form, because there are ways, there are Attorney General cases where if each of you do your own position statement and you're just doing it, you do one on Monday, Gleason does one on Tuesday, the Attorney General has basically deemed that's in fact a sunshine law violation, because you're talking to each other, but you're just calling it a statement of position. Okay, is there any questions about that? Next slide, Rick. No, can't do any of that. Okay, so what else is applicable? This is obvious, but these are really danger zones, I'm telling you. Like, it does not matter, because sometimes people get stuck on the mode. They think it's paper or it's a letter. If you are communicating between one another using a stork technology, the little bird that's flying to deliver a message, that's going to be a sunshine law violation. But telephone, emails, text, social media conversations, the Twitter accounts, if you're active on social media and one commissioner makes a statement on that Twitter account and then another commissioner responds to that statement on a separate account, that's going to likely be considered a sunshine law violation. Correspondence, and then liaisons, people over the years have gotten really cute on this topic, but the classic, I'm not technically talking to Commissioner Gardner because, I've just, talked to Dr. Hsu, and he's the one that's going in between the two of you and effectively facilitating that dialogue. That's a scenario where he's not going to be in trouble, at least not on the sunshine law, but you will be in trouble because you know that you're basically using him as a liaison between the two. Okay, so the fun part, consequences of violation of the law. This is really serious. I mean, people, it's serious. Knowing violations, 60 days in jail. You guys have such great reputations. That's why you're sitting here. Nobody wants to spend any time in jail. Nope. That's for intentional, knowing violations, flagrant. Unintentional violations is still $500. It's embarrassing. You could have civil lawsuits that flow out of this. Next slide. And what will get the state attorney or the grand jury involved? Obvious violations of the law. A couple of, I think it's one more, Rick. Pushing the envelope, this sort of, not focusing on the form rather than the substance, right? I mean, the spirit of the law is that the public has a right to not just come here and hear you say yes or no, but they have a right to the decision-making process, the entire decision-making process. They have a right to see that. That's what the letting the sun shine in. And then high-profile issues, something like building your education center. I mean, that for you, that was a big deal. So those are just the types of issues that people are just going to scrutinize just because they're high-profile for you and the type of work that you do. Large contracts, that could be a problem. Next slide, Rick. Okay, so what will get a private party to sue? Big contract awards, anything affecting citizen rights. These are constitutional rights that we just kind of talked about, statutory rights, matters affecting a person's job. So, this idea that, oh, nobody's going to sue. No, people will sue. If it matters enough, somebody will sue. And so we just want to, protect the district. So you or the district may have to pay attorney's fees and costs. When we get into those knowing violations, that could come down to personal liability on each of you as commissioners. Just a reminder, you'll be subpoenaed. Who likes to get a subpoena in the mail? Nobody likes to get that. I've never got one. I don't know what that feels like, but that's serious business. It's very serious. It's a public trial, or it could lead to a public trial. So now you're on TV where people are watching you and they're listening to you. It's just not the place where as an elected official you want to be. And then the last one, which is probably the most important one and oftentimes get understated, if there's any flaw in you following the Sunshine Law, any action that you take at a meeting, it's void ab initio. So it's completely invalidated. So when we talk about procurement awards and things like that, people, you could have to undo a whole process where you put a whole lot of time and resources. Okay? So this is my last slide, and this is the classic Sunshine Law violation. You see the commissioners sitting up there. All those in favor of what we discussed in our email thread and at Larry's son's birthday party, say aye. And then everybody's saying aye, aye, aye. And then you've got those two members of the public at the bottom. I thought this was an open meeting. I have no idea what's going on. And so, it can oftentimes, I'll close with this. Oftentimes, and I've been doing this for 17 years, in terms of staffing governmental entities, and the best conversations, the conversations that I love to see with my clients is the robust conversation, the conversations that there's no way you had a discussion, because you literally can tell by the content of the questions you're asking, the way that you're engaging with each other, that this is the first time you're having this conversation. And it could be tedious, it may make for longer meetings, but I think that's the whole purpose and the spirit behind the Sunshine Law and why it's in place. So that's a very short, I hope that was 10 minutes. I could talk longer, but it's been a long night.
It was the clicking.
I think there's no more clicks, right, Rick? There's no more clicks after that. But I'm happy to, answer any questions if you happen to have any.
Anybody have any questions?
I don't have questions, I just
Commissioner
have a
Gleason?
comment about, we need this for all the statutes beyond 388 that apply.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that most of us on this board understand that we're not subject just to 388.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a lot of laws we have to comply with.
Yes. And that's, if we get to my attorney's report, that's definitely a
good.
recommendation.
Okay. I took the thunder out of you.
All right, so now we're going to move to new business.
Oh, public, was that
Um,
a public comment on that?
On number 4,
Well, it's an item. Through the chair, it is an item on the agenda. There's been a card presented.
Ed Slavin, box 3084. I want to thank learned counsel for her.
Mr. Slavin, are you talking about number 5?
I'm talking about the sunshine.
No, sunshine.
Yes.
Oh.
I wanted to thank learned counsel for her presentation. It was excellent. And apropos of that slide with the cartoon, there was a lovely lady who was the mother of the former mayor of St. Augustine, God rest her soul. And she told me and Maureen Ortegas once, last Saturday Arts Walk, she said they used to have the city commission meeting in her front parlor. And then they'd go have the real meeting, and it would only take 15 minutes because they already decided what to do. And that's how it works around here. I just want to pay tribute, though, to Thomas Jefferson. In 1796, the state of Tennessee adopted Article 1, Section 19 of the Tennessee Constitution. And if you look at that, I think that might have been one of our very first sunshine laws. And it says that the public is entitled to examine the proceedings. Examine the proceedings. And I will always quote that to General Ramsey, the District Attorney General in the 7th Judicial Circuit. And I'd walk into his office and I'd say, I'm just here to examine your proceedings, General. And then the FOIA in 1966 and then amended in 1974 was a forerunner of the Florida Sunshine Law. And I happened to be there that day when the veto by President Ford of the FOIA amendments of 1974 was inflicted at the recommendation of the man who was later Justice Scalia and Cheney and Rumsfeld. Well, Congress overrode that veto. And there was a 17-and-a-half-year-old boy that was me, asked to take Teddy Kennedy's press release on the override of Gerald Ford's veto of the FOIA to the 3 Senate press galleries. That was 1974. In 1983, I used that FOIA to get declassified the largest mercury pollution event in world history in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. 4.2 million pounds of mercury into the workers' lungs and brains and into the groundwater and the creeks, and they're still cleaning it up years later. But these laws matter. I wanted to thank Learned Counsel, though, for her presentation. And just keep on asking questions. And, on the committees. We don't have real committees here. Committees consist of people who are equals. Congressmen, senators, county commissioners, city commissioners. The staff runs this district. And you have one person who chairs each of these so-called committees. That is not a working committee system. That is putting the inmates in charge of the asylum. The staff tells the commissioners what to do here, even more than any other government agencies I've ever seen. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Slavin. Okay, so for number 5 on new business, we now are talking about approving hiring a law enforcement and security officer at regular board meetings for safety and meeting decorum reasons. I think that with us trying to kind of restart, it's like we got a new commissioner, we got a new lawyer, an assistant director. We have the opportunity to start over and start new. And every government agency has an officer there. And we have had some very wild meetings that are verbal, and that's fine. But it only takes one thing to push someone sometimes. And so I think that having an officer here, that's what every government agency does. And we have the paperwork that it's
Ask a question.
$55 per hour, a 3-hour minimum. If we get a supervisor, it'll be 65, a lieutenant, 75. So that's that, and yeah, so Commissioner Gleason?
And I'm just, you said every government entity, is that, I just want to factually check that, I'm not sure. 'Cause I'm-
Maybe
I
not
really-
every 100%.
So I'm looking at the
But-
county, does county commission have?
Yes, they have
School
multiple, the
board?
city of St. Augustine, the
board?
school board, the
Most.
Okay.
city of
Most.
St. Augustine
So it's
Beach.
so it's SOP? Okay.
We're one of the few people that
Right.
do.
We never
And
have
people-
anybody.
Well, I've heard a lot of residents that say they're not comfortable coming because of that.
Really?
He just said that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we have an open door here, and we know we're all fine in this room, but we don't know.
Yeah.
You never, times are different now, and so I think to prepare to make us safe, the public safe, us safe, that we should have somebody here. That's just a matter of standard decorum. So I'll take back the 100%, because it's not 100%, I'm sure, but.
No, I was just
Are we
asking,
voting
just
on
because
that?
I don't
Are
want
we
somebody to
voting
come back and say really not 100%.
Oh, I mean, at the county, you have to walk through a metal detector. You gotta talk to 4 cops before you even get through the building. And then there's more inside. There's people waiting in the hallway. There's people inside, you know.
Okay, so do you need a motion?
Yeah.
Well, is there any other
Comments?
commentary that anyone? Okay, would anyone like to make?
I think there's public.
Mr.
Oh,
Reynolds?
he gave you a card, yeah.
I gave him,
You have all the cards.
I got
I was proud to give him.
Tom Reynolds, 112 Ari Cola. I hope you vote for an officer, a deputy, armed. Let's face it, you don't even need a permit to carry a gun. I'm not a gun person. I don't own any guns. I don't need any. But the people are dangerous. There could be a high-speed chase that ends right here in the parking lot. Someone come in and take us all hostage. Now, I'm sure TJ's packing, but the rest of us probably don't have a gun.
I mean, he is military, so.
Yeah, so, I just really hope you vote for it. And if, I gotta go off topic just for 1 second, just so you know, Chair, you were correct. Ed Slavin is a friend of mine, but he did speak twice on the Sunshine Law. See, the first time he rambled on so much that he got off topic. And so the best thing you can do, because he is a senior citizen, he's a lot older than I am, he goes off topic, and all you got to do is say to Mr. Slavin, you're off topic now. And because he did go off topic, and he has a very bad habit of doing it, although he's a very intelligent man, He's a nice man. I disagree with him on a lot of things politically, but he goes off topic, and you just have to correct him. Sometimes he barks a little bit, but just bark louder, because I'm a believer in obeying the rules. And when we all obey the rules, everything goes smoother. And that includes my good friend Ed Slavin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Tom.
It bears repeating, Ed Slavin, box 3084, edslavin.com. It bears repeating, but the chair illegally declared me to be out of order in this meeting after I cited to the case of Moms for Liberty versus Broward County Public Schools. I hope that never happens again.
I wasn't saying you were out of order,
I think
like
you said
you're
that.
out of order.
I think you
But
said that.
I was saying, the attorney said, don't personally, that's what I'm talking about.
He was just
Moms
saying,
for Liberty stands for the proposition we have a right to criticize government officials. Please read that
Okay.
case before you
All right.
violate my
We're
rights.
trying to end on a good note. Ed, he just said some great things about you. You got some good words in.
Yeah.
I appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, but please don't interrupt people. And when y'all talk over each other, and you did that with some of the vendors and contractors here, one person at a time, I would call it the talking stick rule. If someone is speaking, and it's in your rules, don't interrupt the other commissioners, and don't interrupt the staff, and don't interrupt the people, and please ask Dr. Shu to speak better, because we can't understand him back here. It's intolerable, it really is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Can I,
So is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, I want to make a motion that we, I want to make a motion that we hire someone from law enforcement to attend our meetings.
I will second that.
do the
We have a
chair,
first and a
a
second.
second.
So
So
let's
this-
take a vote by show of hand.
oh, okay, that's fine, I can.
One,
Heather?
2, 3, 4, 5, unanimous.
Is Heather taking? No? Okay, it's being recorded, okay.
Okay, so that passed unanimously, thank you.
Through the chair.
And we also need to do another motion.
What was the
Through
question?
the chair, I wanted to just tell you that I had a conversation with your CFO, and he did say, just in terms of dollars, in case you wanted to know where the money was coming from, but in your budget, there is an operating expense line item for contract services, and I think the estimated amount to take you through the end of this fiscal year was not more than, 1,700, right, Dr. Shu?
1,485.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just so the public knows so as well. So that's $1,485 for the next 9 months.
Okay. Did we vote?
Okay, so
Did we vote already?
yes, we voted, and now we're going to move on to moving our old business number 3 from the consent to new
Yes.
business number 6, and that is our board members to attend the FMCA Tallahassee legislation meeting. I'd like to start off with that by saying it is super crucial for somebody to be there. We have targets on our backs, and we need to be up there in meeting. Unfortunately, I was going to plan on to go, and I cannot make it. So if anyone else would like to go, that would be great. It's where we get to have private meetings with our senators, with our state representatives, and get to talk to them about what we do as an organization, as the Florida Mosquito Control Association, but also as Anastasia Mosquito Control. And we have 3 new people that are elected in those positions. So they have,
Brand new.
they don't know who we are. They only know what they heard. And there's a lot of incorrect information floating around about us in the Capitol. So I think it's important and pertinent that we go there. And then I think Commissioner Gleason, you have some.
Yeah, I pulled it, not because I'm saying that it's not important. I pulled it because I've been going to it 2 years in a row. And I think Dr. Pauls knows this, that you know this, and you know this as well. At one point, we're overwhelming them in their office. Like, there's a bunch of us in very small, tight quarters. And we also have FMCA with us. So think about some of them have tiny offices. Think about that. And overwhelming them with a bunch of people from St. Johns County when not all the districts send people, because FMCA is supposed to be our representatives as well. So my recommendation would be, and now I hear that you're not going, so I might go out the window, was that we appoint the chair to be the representative to go along with staff at FMCA to the lobby days. Honestly, not only will it save taxpayer dollars, but more importantly, make it a little bit more credible that the chair that speaks for the board is also speaking with the legislators. It also gets me away from driving 3 hours to Tallahassee and back, because we can't drive with each other, But I'm actually being cognizant of the budget. I'm cognizant of overwhelming these legislators with the same people repeating our same story over and over. And then if I have one recommendation that I would like to make is, what is the objective this year? The last year, we already had it from FMCA by the January meeting. We already knew what we were going to talk about. And I haven't seen anything, so I'm like, are we sending people, and do we even have meetings yet scheduled? Actually, it's March, so we probably won't have them yet. But what's the objective this year? What's hot? I mean, we haven't gotten a legislative update in, I would think, over a year now as to what's hot on the legislative agenda.
So I talked with our Commissioner Chair, Mr. Goodman, Commissioner Goodman from the Florida Keys, and he's on the legislative committee. We're giving a whole PowerPoint presentation at our DOD course.
Okay, so
what
on
it
DOD.
is, and then usually the night before, you meet at the restaurant, and then the lawyers will talk and kind of go over what our priorities are, give everyone a packet of information, and then at the night, when you're done, you read over it, and then.
But as far as we know, there's nothing that went through committee that's going to be on, like a bill like last year.
I don't know.
No.
Can I speak to this?
Yeah.
So as part of the FMCA Legislative Committee, we just had a meeting yesterday to go over talking priorities. We are going to have to lobby again for the additional $500,000 that we received last year because it's been on the cutting block.
And can you explain that? Because that doesn't come to us. It goes to the counties that don't have programs.
Right. So this is to help fund mosquito control programs. So we have different tiers. So not all mosquito control programs in the state are independent districts. Some are county run.
Like Duval.
Correct. And so that funding level that was raised last year, which goes to those districts to help support their program, as well as the research funds, they were able to increase that funding level by an additional $500,000. However, and that was significant because we had not seen an increase in, I don't know, was it 15 years or so? And so, but however, it's on the cutting block now. And so.
Again?
Yes, and so the legislative committee feels that that is a strong talking point. In addition, I think that we're addressing that there's a critical need for potential additional funding related to arbovirus, in implementing arbovirus surveillance or other activities with programs that are dealing with like local dengue transmission. Obviously, we have disaster preparedness funds that come out when we have tropical storms or hurricanes, but there's no funding level at the state or even at the federal level that's distributed to the state level that allows for activated response to local disease transmission, especially with some of these arboviruses that are either have been endemic and are no longer but are reoccurring, or those that have been introduced. So those are some of the talking points that the legislative committee is discussing that they want to address at Tallahassee Days. But we're working on those talking points at the moment.
Yeah, so respectfully, back to if we can control the number of people going, I mean, I don't, it was overwhelming. Last year it was overwhelmingly, so, but it's going to be on you and TJ then.
I think it'd be a great.
For him, it's going to be a first.
For the first, especially for your first time, and Gail, Commissioner Gardner has gone several times and knows the area well, and it's important for everyone to go and just see it.
Okay, sounds good, I'll go. Yep.
Okay. So
We don't have to take a motion of.
Do we need to make a motion?
Because you already backed out. You said you can't make it.
Well, I can't make it, but,
So it's the two of them.
yeah,
Do we have to make a motion on that?
Well, it was originally on your consent agenda,
yeah.
Yeah, but do we,
right?
But we moved it to new business.
Yeah, but we
Correct, so
still
you
have
need
to
a
decide.
motion. Right,
So-
right.
So is there a motion to approve Commissioner Gardner and Commissioner Mazzota to go to the FMCA legislation meetings?
so you just made it and I'll second it. I don't want to repeat that.
So show of hands,
Second.
vote for yes,
I second it and shows.
show of hands for no? Which one are you, Commissioner
sorry,
LeBlanc?
I'm.
Yes?
She was
Okay.
late.
Yes. All right.
She was late with the hand.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I had a long day, so. I second it.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to number 7, which is new business number 7, which is or consent item number 5, Commissioner Mazzotto for the AMCA annual meeting.
Okay.
And so I am approved as a speaker. I will be giving a presentation on Commissioner's Day. It's important for us to participate in these AMCA events. For the public, the AMCA is the American Mosquito Control Association. Dr. Shu is currently the president of that association, and this year it's going to be held in Puerto Rico. The last few years, we have heard at our previous AMCA meetings about the horror that's happening in Puerto Rico over the last several years. They have just extreme outbreaks, and so we really pushed to try to get us over there. It's going to be a good event, and I think that we have already approved other commissioners. This approval is for Mr. Mazzotto to attend.
Okay, and the reason I moved it out is I asked about this last year, and I said, unless you have a speaking role, it is public perception that we're going off the continental U.S. to Puerto Rico, Caribbean, in the peak season, by the way, not even in the low season, and it looks like a vacation paid at taxpayer expense. There is no commissioner track. That is a problem. And I think every commissioner on this side of the dais should consider what a public citizen feels like when they're sending us at their taxpayer expense to Puerto Rico for basically a week with no business other than listening to presentations from scientists. And by the way, I'm not a scientist. Great presentations, but the perception, again, of the public, of multiple commissioners on this board, only one of which is presenting, that is not a good message to send to the public. I'm not going, I will not go. I even said, I'm not going. I've asked several times. I said, if I want to go to Puerto Rico on a vacation, I can pay for it with my own money. And I think out of respect for citizens, we need to think about that, because what's going to come out in the newspapers is the board members of Anastasia Mosquito Control went to Puerto Rico for a week. And your name got put on this, and I don't even know why it got put on it. Because there's more than you going.
All right, hold on. Let's follow decorum.
Yeah.
Okay, that's,
Mr. Mazzotto?
okay. That's quite a thought. That really kind of stretches a little bit, I think. I mean, it's a professional American, the whole country is sending mosquito for presentations to learn and to network with other mosquito control people. So I think
I've been to 2.
perceiving that it's a vacation is a stretch and a little bit ridiculous, to be honest with you. So
But
I don't know
Can
about
I respond to that?
that.
Because I've
But
attended.
that was kind of silly.
Your name got put on this. I wasn't naming this at you. I was naming it at
But
the
I'm
entire board.
going, so.
You can go. I'm just saying
I think
that.
it's a great learning opportunity, especially me being new.
But there's no commissioner track. There is nothing for commissioners other than sitting there listening to
There's
scientists.
Commissioner's Day. At
There is a
AMCA.
commissioner's day. I was told, wait, time out. I was told there was no commissioner's day at this year's. So okay. y'all do whatever. Let's go to the next part of this.
I
I
have
asked
a
for,
Okay,
comment.
hold
I
on.
have a
All right.
comment, though.
One at a time?
I feel like I also asked for a travel policy from this staff last year, and thank you, Dr. Call, for saying yes. And it was in September, we were supposed to have it by November. We were supposed to have the broker give us a quote on cost to cover our travel policy. That has never been done. So we're here traveling again. Forget the AMCA, anybody wants to go to Puerto Rico, go fine. But we committed to have a travel policy on the record with the broker giving us a cost, and he said he could not give us a cost of that travel policy until we have the policy itself.
Yeah, and he was
None
going
of
to
us-
come back and present to us, and he
Yes,
never
and
did.
it never got, no, because I found out today that the travel policy never got written. So we either are going to commit when we pass something, when this board directs staff to do something, we're going to either hold the staff accountable and to do what we ask them to do, or we're not. I happen to have very good insurance, so if I were to go on one of these trips and get sick, I have a feeling that it'll respond. I don't know what y'all's insurance is, but that broker said that our coverage for board members is very limited, if at all.
And we were supposed to get a list of the,
So you guys are going to be traveling in March. There is no travel policy. There is no travel insurance. Good luck with that.
I
all
would
right.
like to make a
Commissioner
comment.
LeBlanc?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I think as commissioners, it's extremely important that we are educated. I think if a commissioner expresses interest, I don't think, in attending a workshop, I don't think that is a waste of taxpayers' money, because that makes us a more informed commissioner, and we can discuss and vote. I mean, there's technologies that are out there that we could improve efficiency of mosquito control. I mean, so I believe it is extremely valuable. I mean, it's not, we don't have 5 commissioners that wanting to attend every single conference. That is not what's happening. You're having 1 or 2 that are wanting to go to various ones. And quite frankly, as far as taxpayer money, I mean, I think you're looking at probably pennies in the scheme of things. And I mean, education is invaluable. I'm sorry, I'm an educator, I'm a taxpayer, and it's invaluable.
Does everybody understand that there is no other, can I respond?
Well, yes, but you have to wait to get called on, that's the policy.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Gleason.
School board doesn't send anybody out of the county unless they're going for education specifically requested by the state. County doesn't send anybody out of the county or the state unless it's requested as specifically education for the state. All those people have to get educated as well. They get their education in a lot of different ways other than going to Puerto Rico or going to Reno or going to Dallas like we've all been doing. So I am sorry if I disagree with you, but education comes in very different way. I read NIH every day to see if there's anything coming up on mosquito control. I read the Fly magazine that Dr. Shu sends us all the time. I don't need to sit with a bunch of scientists to learn about mosquitoes. But when I look at the rest of our county and I look at the rest of the organizations in the county that do not send any of their commissioners out of the country, out of the continental United States, or out of the state, that to me is problematic because we are an outlier. That's all I have to say.
So I just want to add to that part of our statute of 388 is to educate ourselves as commissioners. So
Yes.
we do need to educate, and the reason we participate in many activities is because we are internationally known. We are internationally held at a very high rate, so we have to be international. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so there's a motion to approve
How many
Mr. Mazzoto
How
to
many people are
attend,
going?
and the,
Am I-
Dr. Shu?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we are one of the leader in the mosquito control field in the state and the nation, also in the world. So now we finish construction, and now we need a new direction for next few years, future direction, development, where we should go. So that's the commissioner, like just elected a new commissioner, and willing to have opportunity to learning, to join there. I do support, I mean, as the president of AMCA, I invite him, invite our commissioner, everybody join that if possible, beneficial for the AMCD. That's the reason we get over $1 million funding grant. If we do not do this work, nobody knew anything. Just share information, so you can find the money from a grant, from industry, support you are doing this. That's gain-gain situation. So that's, I really thank you, our board, former board, current board, support education, our legislating, and join the community, professional community, meeting people, help each other, get information. So that's the way our marriage rate in the study, very, very low, 0.16. It's unbelievable. Where the money come from? So every year we have about $1 million grant funding coming. It's no any Muslim country this one like this. Thank you. It's worth to.
Thank you, Director
One
Dr.
last
Chu.
question. One question. One last question. Like, how many people are going? How many people are going to this thing?
From staff
Everybody.
in the world?
Was it? No.
Are we all
St.
invited?
John's.
St.
St. John's
John?
County.
We're
How
all
many?
invited.
St. John's,
What's the total?
2 of them,
We're all
and
invited.
3
We don't wanna
commissioner,
go.
5.
So
Personal
five.
thing.
Yeah.
We're all invited.
No,
We're
okay.
all
We're
invited.
taking this person.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
hold
just-
on, we're talking out of
Can
order.
we
All
not?
right, so there's gonna be 5 people,
This is ridiculous.
3 commissioners and
2
2
staff.
staff that are gonna go.
Enjoy.
Mr. Slavin?
It'll be in the papers.
Well, I'm mystified.
You dropped a couple papers.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Ed Slavin, box 3084, edslavin.com. I think y'all need to do trip reports. When you travel on government business for the federal government, you have to do a trip report.
Agree.
In the Department of Labor, Office of Administrative Law Judges, if you went to a conference, if you went to a trial, you had to do a trip report. We don't do trip reports here. So I'm a little skeptical as to hearing that this is for education. So you're educated and you don't share it? That dog won't hunt. When we need to see, could we possibly get on the Mosquito Control District website a link to where we can see the same presentations that y'all got to see in Puerto Rico?
Probably
And does somebody take
not,
attendance?
but the last meeting in Reno was videoed, and they said we would be able, so if we can, that would be wonderful,
Oh,
because then
great.
we could put it on the website and everyone could see it. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
And then maybe, if we do that, maybe you don't have to have 3 people go.
Live stream the whole trip.
Yeah, thank you.
Sound good?
Thank you. And maybe somebody to take attendance, because I know
That sounds
in the
important.
American Bar Association, every year, or I guess every 8 years, they'd have a meeting in Honolulu. And some New York Times reporters and Washington Post reporters got wind of that back in the 80s, and they took attendance. They went to meetings and saw that basically all these lawyers and judges were out on the beach in Honolulu, and they weren't going to the meetings, and they weren't being educated.
Well,
So-
you came to our AMCA meeting, remember, in
I did.
Jacksonville?
Yeah, here in Jacksonville. But you never know when a reporter's going to be at your meeting. So if you don't go to meetings, and if you don't take notes, and if you don't educate us, that would be considered waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's the problem I think Commissioner Gleason had, and I think she's right.
Yeah, and it wasn't aimed at anyone
Oh, I know,
specific, but I
But I
feel
mean,
like,
we
we're being attacked.
we waste a lot of money in government, and Judge Nahum told me years ago that any government budget can be cut by 10%, and we don't even try in St. Johns County, and we sure don't even try mosquito control, and we do budgets. Well, it's a flawed process, but let's do trip reports, let's have a travel policy second to none, and require anybody traveling on AMCD business to file a trip report within a reasonable number of days of returning, instead of just taking our money and doing whatever. In Reno and Puerto Rico, what does that tell you about those organizations scheduling meetings in peak season, like Commissioner Gleason said, in highly desirable places for vacations? It doesn't look right. It doesn't pass the smell test, it doesn't pass the laugh test, and I don't think we really need 3 commissioners there. And I look forward to reading your trip reports, and maybe we'll even have somebody there in the audience videotaping. Thank you.
Thank you.
You think we're gonna do?
All right, but hold on, let's not be out of order. Let's take our times here. Okay, so now our next one.
We
So,
need a
no,
vote.
I'm sorry, we need a motion. Has anyone made a
Can we,
motion
yeah,
yet?
please?
Yes,
Can we
I'd
do the
like
motion?
to make a motion to let Mr. Mazzotti go to Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second, by raise of hands, yes?
Did we have a motion on the last one? Why are we motioning on him, only on him? We never,
We already did
Comments,
approve
yes.
that last
did we
year.
approve that for last year?
We
I
approved
thought it
that
was-
before.
I thought you
Yeah.
guys had
Voted
it on
on
the
that.
consent agenda.
Yeah,
You threw it on the
approve.
consent agenda last time, that's why.
Probably.
Not different people.
That's what they did last time, they put it on the consent.
Right, and through the chair, just, I
Just-
know the
just-
motion.
Just make the motion, second. I'm gonna vote yes.
Dr. Shu, are you sure we're okay to go to Puerto Rico for this thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna say yes.
Over
I'm gonna say,
900 people.
my vote is a yes because it was already approved on the consent for everybody else.
Gotcha.
Right,
Okay, so we
Can I-
have a vote of 5 yeses?
Yes.
yeah. And can I just, for the minute taker, I know the motion was to have Mr. Mazzato go to Puerto Rico, but it's not just go to Puerto Rico, right? It is go
To
to
the
Puerto Rico
AMCA.
for the actual educational
That's on
event. I
the
just want to
record
put
now.
that on the record. Thank you.
Put that on the record on video.
All right, so AMCA meeting. Our next item is number 6 from the consent agenda, and we have moved that to new business number 8, and that is for Dr. Shu to join the International Conference of Vector-Borne Diseases in Chennai, sorry if I said that wrong, India, January 21st through the 24th, 2025. Dr. Shu will give a presentation and an overview of AMCA and a presentation about the comprehensive programs at AMCD. This will benefit AMCD in terms of information exchange, learning new technologies, recruiting international members, and collaboration. Also, it will benefit AMCD by allowing us to adapt new technology, collaborate, and recruit visiting scientists and students. Due to an international transfer in California, AMCD would need to pay for $800, or AMCD, excuse me, AMCD would need to pay for a hotel room for 2 nights, and the local transportation there, what Uber taxi service. Now, AMCA is giving Dr. Shu $2,500 to travel to do this. But
Can
I guess we have to go in California. So,
Yeah, the only
Commissioner
question, the question is India, was really for India, and not that he can't go or anything like that, it was around the broker, the insurance policy, because he said that our health insurance policy nor our workers' comp policy, and he said that on the record in September, extends to that we would have to get a travel policy. AMCD is not going to cover if he gets injured or ill overseas. So my question is this board going to make sure that there's coverage for Dr. Shu in this travel? Because right now, the brokers was very clear that there is no coverage for that. So if he gets ill or he can't travel, he's stuck.
I just want to make sure, I thought that when he said
This
that
is
it was
India.
just for commissioners. That
No,
there was no
including staff.
coverage.
No,
I thought staff
No,
were
no, no,
covered,
no,
but
no.
not
He looked at
commissioners.
staff too, and that was why the travel policy was requested. He said before he could quote, he needed to know what countries we were traveling to and how often the travel was before he can quote a travel insurance policy for both commissioners and staff. We've been sending people overseas without literally having their backs if they get ill or sick. So we can approve this, but somehow we need to make sure that if something happens to him overseas, he's able to get back.
And I brought that up because at
Right.
a conference a couple of years back, it got stuck in an earthquake. I mean, you know, so, yeah.
We're talking Brazil and we're talking India here.
Thank you for your concern. Yeah, our situation is in late guest, like a keynote speaker representing
Yes.
America. So they have always a translator protection. I went to Africa several times, they just like guarding the whole, they think this
But
should
the
be fine.
association will not respond to you getting personally ill or injured, it is us, the AMCD, and we don't have coverage, and that's what the broker told us.
Yeah, Blue Cross, my insurance cover my sick, only that worry about the hostage.
You have a Blue Cross person in
Some
here.
country is dangerous. There is under Department of State that have less.
You don't have international coverage through Blue Cross. I'm gonna tell you,
Yeah,
the policy doesn't have it, unless you bought it by yourself.
Yeah,
You bought it separate.
I have the separately.
And what do you do, what about the comp? What about if you're injured?
The injuries depend health insurance, depend that what's called the travel insurance. I also bought a travel insurance too. So travel insurance, when you purchase, include the hotel, include the flight, yeah.
Okay, I'm fine if everybody's fine, but we did direct the staff to come up with that. We asked the broker to come up with the coverage. Back.
Yeah, or be.
I do agree with you,
February
yeah.
meeting.
I don't know who to talk to
But-
anymore, what we said we were gonna do and we didn't do.
So that's one of the policies that we certainly need to get done.
Yeah, or be bring here for February meeting, before they ask Amy from a lawyer and work on. Then the change, she suggested, when everything, need a new lawyer coming and work on, so we need to pull over for some kind of draft.
Do you have
We
that?
work on,
Oh, I have
February.
nothing.
You don't
I
have
don't
She
have
doesn't need-
anything yet, but we're gonna be
Work
having a
on.
series of meetings. I'm happy to work with you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve $800 to cover the California travel to cross over the pond of the Pacific Ocean for Dr. Shu?
I will make that motion.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll
To
second it.
approve Dr. Shu's travel request for the AMCA presidential activity, January 21st through the 24th, and the WHO TDR activity, February 18th through the 21st, for $800.
I'll second it.
Okay? Show of a yes for approval with hands? Okay. 4 yes, all those no? 1 no?
And it's because I'm trying to stick to the policy. You guys didn't deliver it, so.
Our next item is,
Reports. The reports.
Report.
all right, so our next item is going to be a report from our director, Dr. Rudy Shu.
Thank you. First, I welcome the new commissioner and on the board. And we meeting several times, and they're really happy. We have a future, and the AMCD, that's really need to work together, need to keep the leadership, and bring lots of other side money and the grant to reduce the tax money. So help the local community, not only professional. And the second, congratulations, the new chair, 6 years you get a chair. Thank you, appreciate you. Hopefully under your leadership, we work together and make meeting more efficient, quicker. And today is almost how many hours?
It was bedtime.
Yeah.
4 hours.
Yeah. So that's my report. The first is last year, we had 4 hurricane Curry brought last rain. In my last 20 years here, work here, the mosquito is the worst mosquito. You saw the Facebook. We use a job in Southwest job to dump mosquito. Then we have the most accomplishment. That's the accomplishment. Our accomplishment is no any human case, even travel related. No any horse case. You see Jacksonville, 34 West Nile human case. We only have a single chicken. So this is a very, very accomplishment. That's what people pay for. Protection people save other people's life. That's the most important. Important than my job. So the second, we brought about $1 million grant and government funding after the Hurricane Milton air spray. That's over $400,000. There's no any mosquito control district like this. So get this kind of situation. We have very good team. Thank you, Dr. Core, work hard, and the other employee. Thank you about the support, everything that they are doing. What's good for the district? What's good for the people? That's our job. depends on, that's very, very professional. So I'm very proud of our job, work doing the work. Third, we have a high reputation. It's unbelievable. You go to anywhere, our employee, staff, intern student, PhD student, grant student, found the job very easy. Like some call me, the course give high recommendation, it's a very high reputation. That's the congressman on the floor recognize the AMCD. Thank you, commissioners, went to the lobby. That's very, very important. You elect the officer. The legislature need to educate them. They listen to you. I talking 10 words, you talking 1 word, at different level. So after that's really thank you. That's our district since many years coming to today. It's not easy. It's all about effort, especially politics, our elected commissioner. You show up, there's a different story, total different story. So that's really thank you. We need to join this. Then we can help local people, bring more money, bring more business to here. So I'm very, very proud of myself. I'm very proud of my board, former board, current board commissioner. I did also 25, 26 commissioner already. I have the language learning or deal with the employee. So they come like a dark core. Life will come back again. That's something attractive. Yeah, that means the district reputation. So that's the congressman recognizes the AMCD. So that's one. And the other thing that now you're going to anywhere, anesthesia, mosquito control. I'm not everybody knew that. From such a small island, anesthesia becomes a state, national, world impacted. It's not easy. So that's the kind we need to really consider about help to keep the situation. Other thing, I really thank you, appreciate Mr. Eddie Slavy, consider my retirement better than my wife. My wife is worker. Keep you enjoying. Yeah. And thank you for suggesting my retire. When I get a time, I'm going to think about it. I have the commitment for society ecology. And AMC president one more done. March 7th is my last day for AMC president. Also, the work for the state commissioner, the council, FCC, MC council, the meeting, the board member. So other thing that today, we host the Florida mosquito control call on the council. I'm the member. So that last year, Commissioner Agriculture appointed. Thank you, the new commissioner today. I joined the meeting. You can learn anything that was going on. Also, the division director, environment and mosquito control, and Katie, and I knew her for a while. And she took a tour of our disease vector education center and the SAT. She was very shocked, surprised. What's going on? You lead our the field. So we can try to help. I asked her, I need more help. Before you help, continue help. Get some most education training and research. So that's one. Last thing that about when seasonal employee promoting to full-time for technicians started January 6th. Or the Dr. Pepper joined the military and for the service high rank. And I don't know, the lieutenant colonel or colonel. Also the service country. It's from a small organization, service country, some calling I very recommended. So that also we accepted 6-7 veterans, like Dr. Joe, after 33 years of military service, coming here, become our scientist leader, our scientist, take a core position, and we have many veterans. That's all exchange. It's a good first thing. That's the reason military Department of Defense give up $800,000 grant for research. And now also we have more cooperation with the Navy, also include feature with the Air Force. They also deal with it's such a big field, but everybody, such a small network, help each other. Thank you, appreciate. And Mr. Edis, they were talking about the public record requirements. I do create a spreadsheet, gave to him, and ask him which one miss, which one yeah. So that I can give you forward the new law you look at. And also he requests the many items, some they not couldn't find. So that I made a point with him in first week of February, we meeting together. Which one is need, which one we work on. We treat him very, very well since 2007. Anything he requests, we try to our best. He also praises AMCD, high reputation for the public record request. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. Only one thing request, please don't insult me. I respect you very, very much. I learned a lot from you since 2006, and the legal thing, many things. I learned a lot from you. Really appreciate it. The last many years, without your support, they couldn't get here today. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Shu. And Ms. Hodges?
Yes, okay, just a few little items that I want to point out. So this is my 15th day anniversary serving as the district's attorney.
It probably feels like 2 years already, huh?
Right. It's a lot. But just to give you an idea of what, I'll be working on in the upcoming months, we do need to take a look at your contracts, hopefully get it to a place where there's a template, looking at your procurement, your policies. Very happy to see the districts moving in the direction of hiring the HR firm. That's a necessity for any organization. HR is a really big deal. And so we have our HR lawyers at our firm to help complement this HR firm that you just hired. So that was a excellent move that I would absolutely legally recommend the district move in that direction. So tonight we talked about sunshine law. What I'd like to do, if you can tolerate it, is have 2 more similar presentation sessions at your next couple of meetings just to cover public records and ethics. I'm glad Dr. Shu brought up the public records already. We've begun to make some changes in terms of making sure that we have acknowledgements, clarifications when we need them to help us get a better estimate as to how much public records cost. Citizens have an absolute right to review the records, but there are also reasonable charges that governmental entities can charge to view those records. So we're working on that. So that's in queue. I would like to have a workshop more setting 2 hours, maybe in the AM or maybe the afternoon, whatever suits your schedule, to dig more into the parliamentary and the governing documents. I think Commissioner Gleason mentioned it last month and again this month, to sort of give you an overview. The sunshine, public records, and ethics are sort of that basic, you're a governmental entity, you have to follow those. But really, this workshop would be more geared at the governance structure, how you interplay as commissioners with your director, roles and responsibilities stemming from your enabling ordinance, as well as all of these other ordinances that you are subject to that go well beyond Chapter 388. So if you're open to that, I don't need a motion regarding that, but if I can just get some head nods, then maybe Dr. Shu and I can sort of coordinate this month, upcoming month, or maybe March, whenever it's better, because I know we're going to be moving into budget quite soon, but we'll work that in. But I think I would love to do that training if you guys would allow me to do that training.
Ms. Hodges, would you be able to give us maybe like a couple different options of days and times, and then everyone could kind of send you an email of what works best? That way everyone's schedules, I know everyone has a job and stuff. So.
Right, absolutely. The other thing I want to also work on as well, and some of this will be in tandem with your HR firm, but also training the staff, because it's also important that the staff understands public records, even the sunshine laws, to make sure that they're not acting as that liaison. And public employees also have the same ethics issues that you have as public officers. So it's no different as elected officials. So that's the other sort of training that I like to do. And then lastly, what you might see at the next meeting is some changes here. What I would like to do is get you in a form where your motions are kind of written out, and that way we're doing less sort of wordsmithing on the fly. If we can kind of if I can work towards that, working with the director, that would be sort of my preference, to just kind of help so that you're not struggling up there trying to think of what words to say. We can have that written out for you.
Thank you, Ms. Hodges. Okay, and now for commissioner comments, Commissioner LeBlanc?
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is past my bedtime. I have been teaching all day, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, so I'm going to keep it short. Thank you so much to the staff and all your hard work and everything that you do. And that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Mazzota?
I'll keep it short as well. Thank you guys for coming out. It's almost past my bedtime as well. I was not even aware that these meetings would ever be 4 hours long. So I was not prepared for this, and I'm hungry. Thank you, guys. God bless.
Commissioner Gardner?
It's been a privilege to serve with you guys, and thank you very much, and it's way past my bedtime.
Commissioner Gleason?
It's past my dog's bedtime. So I'm really tired. My husband's about to bolt on me, and I will have to walk home. So thank you, everybody.
And lastly, I just want to say thank you to the board again, and thank you to everyone that came. We're going to have some bumps. This is a learning curve for me, for the lawyer, for lots of people. So, but I just want everyone to know that everything that I'm doing, and if that's gaveling, if that's whatever it is, it's because I'm trying to keep decorum. It's not anything personal. It's not anything to say you can't talk. But there's a lot of stuff that we as commissioners are supposed to do that we just haven't been doing for a long time. And I think it's a great time to reset. So
As long as you don't use that
read
gavel on us.
just, read over the commissioner handbook if you want, or Robert's rules. I got a couple copies if somebody wants
No, it's
to
attached to
follow
the
it.
back. It's attached to the back of the book. There's a cheat sheet that I gave somebody. It's on the back of your
Oh, okay,
workbook.
great.
Like a cheat sheet. It's like so if you don't want to read the entire book.
Okay, awesome. And thank you, everyone. And meeting adjourned. We'll see you next month on
One down,
February 13th. at 5
47 to
p.m.
go.